Yes.
Oh, there we go. There we go. How are we doing, McManus? Are we all right?
Yes.
We're
How you
having a
been?
good time. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad somebody asked. It's been emotionally draining, brutal week. I am, of course, talking about Fallout. Oh, where to even begin? Where to begin? I've got to get this off my chest, right? This one thing that happened to me, like, it's been eating at my soul, right? So, spoilers for Fallout, if anyone cares. How long has this been out? Like 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Right. So, last week I talked about how I was like struggling. I'm just doing fucking running around, get a fucking potato plant for somebody just to fucking scrape by enough ammunition to not die every 5 seconds. Right. So, things have finally started picking up. Right. I went right up into the corner of the map. There is this little house, and there's his parents. They're like, our daughter's run away, right?
Yes.
And we want you to go and get her back. She thinks she's an android. So she's run away. You've got to go and get our daughter back. So I'm like, fine, this sounds more interesting than the potato plants that I've been getting or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So I track her down. She turns out this whole thing is like a DLC thing. I didn't know. I'm just like, I just need something to do.
DLC then, did you?
I just stumbled into DLC as one does, right? And then, so I'm rolling around in this new place. I find the daughter. She's living it up with all these androids, and there's some weird, creepy android dude with shit sticking out of his head, and he's running this whole little like android cult place. Anyway, so I'm talking to the girl. I'm like, look, your parents are worried about you. You're not even an android. You just think you're an android, right? She's like, no, this is where I am now. This is where I live. This is my life. I'm doing my life. Android. So I'm just like, well, I don't know. I'm not about to cut her open and look, right? So I do a few missions for the creepy pinhead dude or whatever. And I'm doing all of this stuff. And then sometimes you get to a place with a mission or like a quest line, right?
Yeah.
Where it says you need to go and talk to the person, but you go and talk to the person and it's like it doesn't activate like anything. So it's like, okay, I guess I've got to do something else and then come back to this, you know, because she's just what's her name? Kasumi, the kid or the daughter who thinks she might be an android. She's not giving me anything, so I'm like, okay, well, I give up with this fucking quest then. Like, you can just you could just stay there, live with the androids, right? So I run back to the main game. I forget all about it. Next thing you know, I've joined the Brotherhood, right? I'm running around with the Brotherhood. I got this big burly guy following me called Dance, right?
Yeah.
And everything that I do, everything that I say, this guy loves it, right? And I'm like, this is weird. Like the other people that I've had following me, they didn't really like what I was about. They're always frowning because I'm like picking locks or whatever, you know. But this dude, he was like, you know what? As long as you're like honest and brave or whatever, he loves everything that you do. So much so that it got to a point where he confessed his fucking undying love for me, right? I don't know if this happens to everyone in this game on this particular quest, but
it can happen, yeah.
It's not just me, right? So
no.
Not for my ego or anything, but Dance loves me. This big burly fucking armor power suit wearing fucking beast of a man. He's confessing his undying love for me. And as I said last week, I don't really care about the fucking dialogue or the fucking. I'm not here to play conversation simulator. Do you know what I mean? I'm here to play shoot things simulator.
Even though there is a fucking lot of conversation.
There's so much of it, and I know what it's about. It's Bethesda. I know that, right? So I'm skipping through. I'm doing all these quest lines with me and Dance running around, couple of sweaty, village people bros, fucking nothing gay about it. It's completely fine. Not that that's not fine, but that's not what I'm about. But Dance is loving it, right? He's all up in my shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm just doing quest after quest with these Brotherhood people, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, these fucking simps, man. They're taking away our jobs. They can't trust them. Whatever. Like, we're gonna go fucking raid one of these bases." So I'm just skipping through. I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. So we all run up in there. I fast travel there. I don't even know where it is. I'm not paying attention. We just go there. We run in the synth base, right? All these androids. I've got my fucking pulse rifle because I've figured out that those are better against the androids, right? This is how smart I am. I finally figured that out. So we run in there, and I'm bad. Like, I'm not good at combat. My aim is shit. So I've just throwing loads of grenades in there before I even go in there. I don't care if I hurt the people. I don't care if you're on my side, right? I don't care if you're in the. I'm just throwing. If you're in the way of the grenade, whatever. Like, Dance loves me. He won't mind, right? So then I've thrown all the grenades in there, shooting up the place. Everyone's dead. I'm like, right, now I can go in and loot everyone, right? So as I'm running around and I'm fucking taking caps and ammo off all the bodies, what's one of the bodies that matters? It's Kasumi.
Oh.
It's Kasumi. It's the daughter of the family that I pledged my allegiance to go and save this girl and bring her back to her mum and dad. And I just fucking threw a bucket full of grenades in her bedroom and just fucking smoked her out. Just smoked her like pork belly, mate. I've just... So I literally, I saw the name on the body and I remembered, I was like, oh, and my face like literally turned into that Mr. Incredible meme. I just like went black and white and I'm just like, oh, this is why I should have paid it. I felt awful. This is why I should have paid attention to the dialogue and the story. But I'm like, I don't care. Now I care. Now I care. Then after that, as if that weren't bad enough, I wrapped all that up. We go back to the Brotherhood base, and they're like, "Yo, Dean, we think Dance is an android." I'm like, fuck's sake. They're like, look, he brought you in, you and him are like a pair. I'm like, well, we're not a pair, we're not together, all right? Don't, just because we run around doing missions together, it's like, it's platonic, okay? It's not romantic, at least not for me, right? But they're like, look, we don't care. You've got to go and take him out. I'm like, fine. Then one of Dance's friends collars me. She's like, look, I know he's an android, but just, you know, see if you can see. Just, I can't officially say don't kill him, but we'd really rather it if you didn't kill him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I already had emotions enough. So I take Dance out and I just fucking, when he turns around, I bang. Fuck you, Dance. Like, for making me have to feel two emotional fucking heartbreaks in the space of one quest line or whatever. I'm like, you know what? I'm not committing myself to this. I'm done with this. So I've taken out Dance. Then the whole point of this game is that I'm supposed to be finding my son, right?
Yep.
So then I'm building teleporters. Too much building in this game, by the way. Too much building. Like,
a lot.
I gather all this stuff. I go to the place. They're like, okay, you've got to build a molecule dissolvent pad or something. I'm like, okay, so I build a teleporter pad. Then like, okay, now you need to power it up. So now you've got to get a generator. Then I'll try and build the generator. And it's like, well, no, you've only got 3 screws and you need 4 screws and 2 springs to build this thing. So then I've got to travel all around the place just trying to find screws and springs, whatever. I come back, I build the teleporter. It's like, right, we're getting to this big bad, like, evil company that are holding my son, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've had enough of this. So I'm like, right, here we go. Turns out, spoiler alert, my son is now an old man and he runs the company. Oh, what is going on? this company, by the way, this building, everything's white and silver, spiral staircases and tubes. It all looks the same. I'm running around in circles. Every time I go in there, I don't remember where anything is, right? I'm so pissed off with it. I hate this place. You know, as much as I should be excited, because I'm like, oh, finally, something that's not like green rocks and rubble. You know, I'm like, here's a nice different change of scenery. It's the worst. It's just everything it's like a little rat's maze. So there's a whole quest line you can do in there, right? So I did some of it, but then the Brotherhood are like,
yeah,
we're gonna take them out. I'm like, my son's in there. He's an old man. He's like lived a whole life. I've spent my whole life looking for him. Like, there's a little bit of a conflict of interest going on here, mate. And they're like, it actually gave me the option. The first time the game has done this, I could have done with this for every fucking thing that you do. I went to get in the helicopter, right? And it says, warning, if you do this mission, the Institute is gone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, this is a lot of heartbreak. This is a lot of heartache. This is a lot of turmoil for my soul, right?
Yeah, it leaves you with like, which way do you want to go? Do you want to do this or? Well,
normally I would have been grateful for the warning, and I would have been, you know, like conflicted. But I'm like, I've already had so much emotion in this game out, just hit me in the balls out of nowhere. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? This decision is the quickest decision I've ever made. I don't want to walk around that fucking rat's maze building anymore. They can fucking die. So I blew the whole place up, McMallers, just because I didn't know which way to walk around it. Ooh. Done. Son, Institute, everyone. Now I'm running around with a giant robot mech thing, and we're just wiping everything out. I'm having a great time. Okay, just the dystopian future has turned me into a soulless, heartless machine now, because I've felt so much pain that I'm just like, you know what? I just don't give a fuck anymore.
You're all gonna get it.
Now, everyone gets it. I just throw grenades in every room. I don't care whose son, whose daughter you are. Don't care what your allegiance is. Your allegiance is now grenades, because that's what you're getting, right?
So, have you seen the kids? Like there's only a couple of the kids, but there's someone who's actually made a mod where you can actually kill the children as well. And then there's a whole YouTube piece. Like, so,
I'm not ready for that. I'm not quite at that level. Maybe by the time we get to next week, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I put the mod on. I fucking killed everyone, mate. I don't care. But I'm on the road. The path to hell is paved with good intentions, or whatever it is. Like, so by next week, I've got the mods on. I'll be killing the dogs. I'll be killing the kids. I'll be just whatever. Like, I'm pissed off. But on the plus side, I don't have to worry about like ammo and money anymore. I'm doing all right, you know. Yeah. Ever since I started killing everyone that I love, like, all of a sudden the riches have come flooded in.
Yeah.
Crime does pay. Yes. How's your week?
Yeah, fine. I've just started, like, as you're saying, you've been on Fallout. I've just started Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and it is Star Wars Prince of Persia, basically. But
it does look like that.
And this is like, they just give you an upgraded lightsaber. You can upgrade your lightsaber and a blaster, even though if you're a Jedi, no one uses blasters. But this, like, the Empire's done so much shit now. I think it's like 6 or 7 years after, like, the Empire took over. And
right. So this is going on like in the time of like the original trilogy. Then it's right in there, or just before.
Yeah. I'll have to look into like when
somewhere between Revenge of the Sith and whatever. Yeah,
and it's just I have no problem shooting stormtroopers whatsoever, but
love it.
In this they in the last one you couldn't cut them up. It was just stripe and then
that's lame. But in the second one, is it like full like limbs coming off?
Legs, limbs. It's just like
love it.
It depends on where you hit them. Like robots that like
Yeah.
you've got to fight will get sliced in half with butter. Like the stronger you get is the more you just only have to go up to a stormtrooper and just twat them one and they're like, dead.
Just
Let
cut his
alone
legs off and be like, aren't you a little bit short to be a stormtrooper? Ha!
Yeah, they come. These stand there. They're these ones that have fucking electron bats. They come up you that can block lightsaber like when you go at them, and they can do some damage. But you just go whoop, bang, dead.
Mate, you know what? I've never played these games, and they look like they should be right up my alley. You know, I'm a casual Star Wars fan. You know, I know a little bit, and I do love like a sort of action adventure. You know, with like light RPG elements. That's sort of normally where I would, like an Uncharted or a Tomb Raider, or like an Assassin's Creed or something like that. And these games look like that's exactly what they are, but I just never went there.
It is the original, it is the original game, but they've updated it, upgraded it. I would say is so much more, and even when getting defeated or dying, they just seem to do it a lot in this game. For fuck's sake,
yeah,
and falling. Like if I've got the tips turned off and I have no idea what I was doing for the first 15 minutes, is like because it gives you so many ways to go. The whole map is fucking, unless you look at the map properly and you know what direction you're aiming for, you have no idea where the fuck you're going.
Oh, I like a game with invisible walls. I love a bit of platforming, right? And if I fall down to my death, like jumping from one platform to another platform, that's fine. That's all part of the game, right? But when I'm like, don't know where the fucking edge of the map is, and I just run off the side and I just die because I've gone out of the bounds of the game, it's like, nah, fuck your realism. Put a fucking invisible barrier there. I've had enough of that shit. From what I understand, you can fall off a lot more in the first one, and the second one they made it less, so that you were doing that.
Yeah, you still fall, you'll fall to your death, even though you're playing a Jedi and you can fucking make that jump, because Jedi's just
they got a super jump.
Yeah, they jump like bouncing spiders, right? So when he falls to his death from a 30-foot drop, it's just like, that's stupid.
It is. You know what I hate, right? Is if you're playing like a Hulk game or a Spider-Man game like this, you get this a lot on the PS2, and there'd be like a boarded up window, and it's like, no, you can't go that way. It's like, oh, shut up! I could punch that in seconds, no problem. But because it's an older game, we haven't made that little area, so you can't go that way. You've got to go around. I fucking hate all that. But I don't know. Build my own lightsaber. You can choose what kind of style of combat you use or whatever. I'd be all about that. Yeah.
Different crystals, different you can have a fucking purple one. My favorite to use is actually fucking Mace Windu's purple or white. When the white one just loads up, the sound is daunting. It's like, fuck yeah, I like this.
That's right on. Yeah, I think we're going to get more different color lightsabers. I think in the Acolyte that's coming up, because for so long it was just, okay, you're red or you're green or you're blue, and it's like, okay, well, Samuel Jackson gets a purple one, but other than that, nothing. And then in the Rise of Skywalker, Rey at the end gets like an orangey yellow one, which wasn't really earned. That kind of just came up out of nowhere. And also she was standing in a desert planet, so you could barely even fucking see it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense now why they had to be green, red, or blue.
Everyone called that that was a lightsaber staff that she's always been handling, but
they set that up and they never did it. No. They didn't do it. The whole she starts with the fucking stick. And you're like, okay, it's obvious. It's obvious that by the end of this trilogy, that stick she's going to be a fully trained Jedi. She's going to make that staff into a lightsaber and have you know, like a different kind of like her own sort of style, you know, with it, and they just didn't do it. I mean, we could do a whole episode of the letdowns of their movies, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how you feel about them. Maybe we'll do that another time. This week, by the way, we are going to do a whole big old breakdown. We're talking X-Men. We've been saying we're going to do this for weeks. Last week, we had X-Men 97. We got Deadpool 3 on the way, which is allegedly going to be the death of the Fox Men universe. He's coming over, MCU. Those movies will be a thing of the past, in the rearview mirror. So we thought we'd have a little look back in the rearview mirror, and we're going to talk about all of those. We're going to rank all 13 of those bad boys and girls, and we're going to get to that. Not a lot of news this week, really, so it's all worked out in the end. First thing is sort of bad news. We'll do the bad news first. Minor, I'm going to say minor thing, but it's not really sort of in the purview of what we would normally, you know. We're talking, you know, Star Wars and nuclear apocalypses and mutants and stuff, you know. Not really a big documentary kind of podcast, all right, but a man who made what I would say is one of like the most important documentaries of the last sort of this century, really. Unfortunately, Morgan Spurlock, you can't even see his face. What a disservice. But that's just how it is. Morgan Spurlock sadly passed away, I believe, from cancer. I'm not sure what kind. There's lots of kinds. But this is sad, man. I mean, he was like 54 or something, so not that old. The Super Size Me documentary, you know, was sort of quite formative, I think, for me and a lot of people, you know, because again, I'm just watching sci-fi and superheroes and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And this was kind of one of my first sort of forays into, you know, looking at the world and, you know, from a different way and kind of getting a bit more perspective. You know, you're kind of coming into adulthood and you're starting to think about everyday things in a different way. And this documentary was really powerful. And he's done documentaries on other stuff. He's done documentaries on like pop culture and superheroes and he like more politically angled stuff. And I don't know. I just wanted to give an RIP. But man, have you seen it, Super Size Me or any of his other stuff? I'm assuming.
Yeah. I watched the first one. I believe the second one was about chicken farming.
Yeah. He goes into like, yeah, that's a savage industry.
That fucking was. Yeah. And how many chicks he stood on in like like it was like, oh my god, there goes another one. Every couple of seconds, like crack, like like,
yeah, that's rough going, man. Even the free range conditions are not great, you know. And I say this is a meat eater, you know. I still eat McDonald's, I still eat chicken, you know. So as much as his documentaries have influenced me, they haven't probably had quite the positive influence that you maybe would hope. But you know, here's to a man that, you know, made us all think about, you know, what we put in our bodies and what the big old nasty capitalist machine is doing to our, you know, to our planet and to our wildlife and, you know, a lot of stuff. He's given us all food for thought, as it were, you know. So rest in peace, Morgan. There's never a good transition. No,
there's not.
But you know, from the land of the formerly living to the land of the recently deceased, we're going to Beetlejuice. Don't say it again. Beetlejuice 2, or like I say, Beetlejuice, which is a great title, by the way. I think.
Yeah,
that really.
I really wasn't expecting that. It's like Beetlejuice.
It's simple, but it's so much better than just like, You know, because
So
otherwise it would have been like Beetlejuice 2, The New Order, or what, you know, like Beetlejuice Returns or whatever.
some
Like,
shitty name that was not it's not going to be needed pretty much.
yeah. But we saw this trailer. Well, I did. I'm assuming you watched it as well. Me
Yeah,
and George talked about the teaser trailer a month or two ago when that came out. This is sort of, you know, just an extension of that, really. We get more of the actual dialogue with the characters. I'll tell you what we get more of that we don't need. Dale, Dale. If I have to hear one more slowed down, melancholy version of a popular song in a fucking movie trailer, then I'm
it's,
done. Like,
it happens a fucking lot, doesn't it?
all the time, all the
Mm,
time. And the whole point of that show, it's like it was using an upbeat song in a macabre kind of dark comedy movie, you know, is
mm,
contrast. As soon as you make the happy, bright, fucking coconut song or whatever it is into a slow macabre song, you completely ruined the whole fucking point of why that song was in there in the first place.
yeah.
Aside from the song, though, there's, you know, we've got, what's her name, Jenna Ortega, in the most typecasted, you know, easy giving up role for as the daughter of Winona Ryder. You know, we got the new goth kid on the block, essentially. You know, we got all the original cast coming back, apart from one who's probably in prison. If he's not, he should be.
Yeah.
The guy who played the dad in the original. Not the greatest guy in the world. In fact, he's pretty bad. I won't talk about his crimes here, you know. And I'm not just talking about Howard the Duck, which he was also in. That's a crime as well. So yeah, we've got everyone's coming back. Michael Keaton's coming back. Catherine O'Hara, who I love, Home Alone Till I Die, literally. And everyone else is back. We've got Justin Theroux coming in. We've got Willem Dafoe, who's literally just walked in off the set of Poor Things, you know, just in his Frankenstein get up with a metal plate on his head and all his fucking dents and wrinkles and missing fingers or whatever he's doing. I don't know, man. Are you saw this trailer? Are you excited for this?
I actually am. I'm like a massive fan of the original. Took them fucking long enough to do this one, but
Yeah.
yeah. I like the trailer. I saw on Instagram, and I literally went to find the trailer for it on YouTube, and it was 6 minutes. It's only got uploaded 6 minutes before I watched it. Like, oh, that's pretty quick. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna go watch it. Going to take the kids.
Yeah, I'm a big
Depends on
Beetlejuice fan. Always loved the original. I don't know. I'm kind of burnt out on, you know, this sort of easy sort of legacy sequels. You know, haven't not many of them really do particularly well. I will give it this though,
No.
like the effects. It looks like they've kept like they looks like there's miniatures and practical, you know,
Yeah,
in camera like special effects and stuff. So that all looks pretty authentic.
yeah.
I think Justin Theroux is perfect as a sort of, because he looks like he's going to be the sort of new version of Otho or whatever he is, like the medium guy who's kind of a little bit hysterical and, you know, flamboyant or whatever. You know, we got Catherine O'Hara. She's going to the spirit realm. She's interacting with Beetlejuice. That'll be fun.
Mm.
But I don't know. I'll probably catch this on streaming. I don't know if I'm not excited at all.
Yeah.
But you know, if there's nothing going on that week, and you know, if maybe we talk about it, or we'll review it. So I might see it for that. But probably if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be in any rush to catch this at all, unfortunately. And I'm burnt out, man. I'm burnt from Michael Keaton. I was so excited to see him come back as Batman. I knew The Flash wasn't going to be good, but I thought Michael Keaton will be the saving grace. He will be the beacon of hope that I need in that movie. And he just looked tired. But he looks like he's having fun here. He's always said that, like, he'd love to have another go doing this character. It's obviously, You know, it's a fun character to do. We don't get a lot of him himself in the trailer, which I think is probably good, because you want to save all those one-liners and
Yeah, but
those moments for the
liner when he
film.
goes, "The juice is loose," and like that has two meanings to it, and that was
A little
fucking
bit.
hilarious.
It does a little bit. I mean, given that OJ just recently passed,
Exactly.
like that was the as soon as he said it, that was what I thought. Like,
Yeah,
is Beetlejuice hanging out with OJ in the afterlife? Is that what's going on?
He's like, I just came up here, I just went past him. The juice is loose.
Either way,
brilliant.
It's going to be showtime, baby. You know, so I don't know. It's out in September, so the fact that we're getting trailers and marketing is pretty early. I would have thought. You know, there's movies that are coming out before then that we haven't really heard much about.
We've got 2 months later, and like we've got 2 months to wait, and like the Deadpool tickets just got released the other day. So
well, this is what I mean. Yeah, we got the Deadpool trailer like a month, 2 months, not even 2 months ago, and that comes out in July.
Yeah.
And Beetlejuice, you know, sometimes I don't know what the marketing people are doing. Maybe because this aims younger, or they want to get, you know, and it's going to be a whole generation of fans who are our age who now have kids of their own, you know. So maybe plant the seed early, kind of build that
get you to
anticipation. I don't know. We'll see. I know. I hope it's good. I want it to be. I mean, I want everything to be good, you know, but just it does feel very sort of hokey, but it looks good. It looks good. You know what my favorite thing about this trailer was they did the names of the actors coming up on the screen like it was a 90s trailer.
Yeah,
that was probably one of my favorite things about this. I'm like, if they can keep that authentic vibe with the practical effects, and it actually feels like it was made in that time, you know, then that will go a long way for me.
Yeah, the trailer definitely feels that way to me.
I hope so. But other than that, no news.
Yeah.
Really. So not much going on. So it's time to look back, everyone, into our childhoods, we're going from the 90s now into the early 2000s, to a franchise that has endured for pretty much 25 years. By the time, if you look from between when they started making the first X-Men movie to the time that Deadpool 3 comes out, that's 25 fucking years of this stuff.
Yeah.
And what a 25 years it's been.
Yes.
I was pretty excited, man. Like when the first X-Men movie was coming out, I was just coming into high school, you know. I've got my own little bit of money now. I'm buying comics. I'm seeing adverts for this X-Men movie. Like, I'm becoming more aware of, like, you know, I think because before then, to me, I think to a lot of kids as well, it's just like, there's no movie, then there's a movie. Oh, look what, you know, till you see the poster on the side of a theater or whatever. I didn't really have any concept of like, oh, you know, what's coming up or whatever. You know, what's there to get excited about, you know, like I say, just the movie just plops down in front of you, or you get plopped down in front of the TV with a VHS on Christmas, and that's the first time you hear about a movie, you know. And I would just sort of, you know, I'd been into comics for a few years at that point, you know, mostly Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. I didn't know loads about the X-Men going into this.
No.
But this marketing was pretty good. I remember I was seeing those black leather suits and those claws. It was, you know, it was everywhere. What was your sort of experience with the X-Men prior to this movie coming out? When was you sort of aware that they were making an X-Men movie?
Yeah, like mine started from basically the animated show. So
of course, I watched that as well. Yeah,
and like apart from and the only character I was into like Marvel at the time was just Spider-Man, and like all I knew was like the animated version of Spider-Man and the X-Men, and then I got interested in that around the same time, and after the first movie came out, I was way more intrigued, and then I found Ace Comics in Colchester, and I'm gonna go there, be annoying, get my dad to take me there, even though it's in Colchester. It's like every other week, go to Ace Comics, and there's a week. I think it's the first X-Men movie. Yeah, the guy who played Sabretooth was doing
Tyler
signings down there.
Main.
Yeah, he was doing
Yeah.
signings down there, and then later on, it turns out he would be fucking Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween. But yeah, I remember going. I got an autographed by him. The guy was fucking huge, and like I remember just seeing him sat down. And he was just really nice to everyone, but he scared the fuck out of me because I knew who he was, and it was the nicest bloke ever. It was like, hey, hey, buddy. It was like.
So up until the point of this movie, pretty much the only thing that I would get taken to see, my parents were a little bit overprotective with what they would let me see. You know, at this point, I had like my best friend in school. He'd already seen like Spawn and like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff. And he was like into anime. It's like I weren't allowed any of this shit. If it weren't like Aladdin or Flubber, I didn't get to go and see it basically. But luckily, like I say, I'm right on the precipice. I've got a pube coming any day now. I swear to God. My parents are like, no, that wasn't. They didn't check to let me in the movie or anything. That would have been weird. But but my point is that like I'm getting taken into this movie. Like both my parents took me, which was a rarity. Normally, it was just me and my mum watching the Lion King or whatever, right? So we're into this, and straight away it's fucking World War II. We're in fucking Auschwitz, right? It is not. This is a happy time we're not having. The kid is screaming. They're dragging him somewhere. It does not look pleasant. I think maybe in retrospect they were dragging him to Bryan Singer's hotel room. I can't be sure, but obviously young Magneto bending the gates, like harrowing stuff, like
what a scene.
Such a good scene. And they come back to this scene, and we'll come back to this as well in one of the later movies or earlier movies, depending on how you want to look at it, right? But really sets the tone for this whole series for the most part, where we're inserting, sort of fantasy, science fiction into real world, into like real history, real time periods, real like, atrocities and sort of humanitarian struggles and all of this kind of stuff. And I think this whole movie really does play more like just sort of like a 90s kind of like sort of thriller, more than it does a superhero movie, which we didn't really have superhero movies at the time. Like I say, we'd had Batman in the early 90s and Spawn or whatever, and
I
Superman.
totally forgot about the Spawn movie. I totally forgot about that. I remember watching that when I really shouldn't have, but fuck, that was awesome.
When I saw Spawn, the little side bar here, when I saw Spawn again, it was because I wasn't allowed to watch it as a kid. My friend was. So when I eventually got to see Spawn, I was like, oh, this is so great. It's so dark and gothic and gnarly, when I'm like 14, 15 or whatever. And then a few years ago, I went back and watched Spawn again. It's not great, really. But anyway, I think this does a good job, like I say, of being dark and gritty. And, it's whippy and quitty, quitty. It's witty and quippy. I'm getting mixed up now. I got Jean Grey in my head. But yeah, so World War II, then we're getting like a cage fight. We see Hugh Jackman. First time we see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Again, 25 years later, he's still Wolverine. I would say that the way he looks in this first movie, and I don't want to be like that sort of like pretentious, like, you know, original kind of is best. But this is the best Wolverine body. I'm sorry, Jackman. Like, I know you spent a lot of time and a lot of hours and a lot of dieting and workouts and grueling routines. And in this movie, he didn't even know he had the role until like pretty shortly before, because Doug Ray Scott was originally supposed to be Wolverine, but then he went. He was doing. He was the villain in Mission Impossible 2, which went over schedule. I think they had to do reshoots for Mission Impossible 2 or something. So he couldn't do Wolverine. So then they like last minute they got Hugh Jackman in, and he's put like he's rushed to put the weight on, but there's no definition. He's just this schlubby, hairy fucking, you know, cannonball of a man. They even like they shoot him to make him look shorter than what he is, because he's pretty tall normally.
Yeah.
And as the movies go on, they kind of stop caring about that. He's just tall, ripped, you know, like machine of a man. But how do you feel like Jackman as Wolverine 25 years later, you know, coming in, seeing him? Did you have like that whole, oh, he's supposed to be short, he's supposed to be Canadian, this, that, and the other? Or did you just took it as you saw him and like this was your Wolverine? You know, how did you feel?
Yeah, well, the second part, basically, I just took it, like, as soon as it's like, you see the first fucking, you hear the schnicked, and you see his, like, the claws. Yeah, I like him. I'm sold.
Yeah, exactly right.
And then Sabretooth jumps out of nowhere. Like, if you know who he, like, if you knew who he was, like, I bet some kids had no idea who the fuck was Sabretooth was, but unless you watched like, you're a comic fan or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just fucks him up in an instant, and just like, whoo! Just uses fucking Logan as a fucking frisbee and knocks him out.
Yeah, like I'm glad, like in retrospect, like there's a lot of thing of like, oh, you know, this isn't what the characters are supposed to look like, and I wasn't like privy, you know, there wasn't a lot of this like online, you know, discussion like as much as like there is now, obviously. But even back then, people are, oh, that's kind of like, these aren't really the costumes. I'm like, can you imagine what it would have looked like in 1999 or 2000, whatever it was, if we would have took Tyler Mane and we put him in a big fucking yellow onesie? Like, that shit would have looked bad. Like, with all the good intentions in the world, I don't care if it would have been accurate or not. There's a certain way, like they would have done costumes back then. It would have literally just looked like a fucking cycling outfit. You know what I mean? Like it would have just been like bright fucking piss yellow and brown. You know, I'm glad, like, you know, I mean, you kind of look at it now and it's a little bit archaic. You know, it's just like he's just wearing like brown rags and like an overcoat or whatever. But I think at the time that was absolutely the way to go. Even with the black leather, you know, and the costumes, like, again, it's all easy to take jabs at it now. They even took jabs at it, you know, in the X-Men 97 that we talked about. And, you know, people are like, oh, this is, you know, it's all, you know, Bryan Singer doing his weird gay black leather thing. Like, this isn't, it's like, look, I think it was the right move at the time. And I've liked seeing sort of how the costumes have developed, you know, as we get into later movies, like in X-Men 3, they introduced, like, if you look closely in X-Men 3, they've got like each character's got like different color like wiring on the black leather. And then obviously when you get into the First Class movies, you know, they start introducing the yellow and the blue as like a practical flight suit situation.
Yeah, I did like the flight suits in that one.
But yeah, so I think it was fun to see the evolution of it. I think, and now that we're getting to this point of Wolverine and Deadpool, when we got the yellow suit, like, it feels earned. It feels like, you know, we took our time, we built up to it. Maybe took a little bit too much time. We probably could have had this suit, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, and they did almost put a version of the yellow suit in the Wolverine. I think there's a deleted scene where he has it like in a briefcase or something with the brown and yellow suit and mask and whatnot. So it feels, we took our time, and now we really appreciate it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that worked really well. But what I think worked really well in the first couple of X-Men movies is like, we're getting introduced to this school. We're meeting people, and it's not just like, here's a mutant, here's a mutant, here's a mutant, here's a mutant. And it kind of is, but like every time we meet somebody, every time we see what their power is, like it completely connects into like the story, and it all moves the story along. It doesn't feel like it's just like, again, like later on in the series, and even with a lot of like other Marvel movies, even like the MCU stuff, where it's just like everyone's got to be doing a power and a joke just for the sake of it. Like, oh, you shoot red beams, huh? Oh, you got wings, huh? Like, it's just like, just hitting the beats. But I think this movie kind of set that kind of template up, especially in X-Men 2, where we're expanding the cast, we're juggling all these different characters, all these different powers. But every time we see a character, every time we see a power, it relates into the themes and the plot of the movie. The dichotomy with Magneto, with Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, like, you couldn't have cast those any better.
No,
like,
was
there ever any doubt that if they made an X-Men movie, it wasn't going to be Patrick Stewart? Like, there's nobody else, But what do you think? Like, who are some of like standouts for you, like as far as like adaptations of characters or sort of any highlights who you think like really did a good job of like embodying their version of the version of the comic book character, or maybe somebody that didn't, like, out of those first couple of movies?
I love Ian McKellen as Magneto, and Sir Patrick Stewart was as.
We're doing titles.
That just slipped out.
You got your respect where it belongs.
Yeah. But
Sir Patrick Stewart.
Sir Patrick Stewart. Yeah. No, because I grew up watching Star Trek as well, so it was. So when he came into this, like, it's awesome just to watch him in a movie, because the guy, he can be really serious, but then you see in American Dad, he can fucking be not serious whatsoever, and he is one of the funniest bastards I've ever like heard. But yeah, and like I said, being Charles Xavier and playing Magneto, I think that it's going to be one of the all-time iconic like characters that they can play.
Yeah, it never gets old. I mean, they don't get old. I mean, they are now, and they age. If you look at the timeline from First Class to Logan, some of these motherfuckers be aging at a snail's pace. I mean, we'll get into the continuity of it all a little, or lack thereof, a little bit later as we get into some of the more recent ones. But I tell you what, right? I tell you what, a lot of people always say is that people say, "Oh man, Cyclops got a shortchanged. They did Cyclops dirty," and I'm like, I'm rewatching these for this. I don't think they did. I think Cyclops is pretty spot on. Like, he doesn't have loads to do action-wise, but then what can he do? Like, he stands at a distance and just a little pew 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 every now and then. Like, he doesn't have a lot of options for, like, especially back then, for like, I mean, obviously, again, to talk about X-Men 97, he uses those beams in ways that, like, you wouldn't even thought of, like, even like they weren't even doing in the comics, where he's using these beams to like shoot himself around the room, and he's basically flying because he's using the beams to slow his descent, and like lots of crazy shit. But back then, even in the comics, there's not a lot you can do with Cyclops. And again, personality wise, he is very much like, he does that. He's the straight man. He's a straight shooter. Like, and they pretty much nail the character spot on. I think the only person who undermines Cyclops in these movies, right, is Cyclops, because there's something that really bothers me, right? Where he says, where we get this whole love triangle with Wolverine, Jean, and Cyclops, which I don't think they played that out as much. They act like it's more than what it is, I think. By the time we get to X-Men 3 and he's like, oh, I love you, Jean, and he has to stab her. I'm like, they didn't really have that much going on in the first two movies to get to that point. But in the first one, where Cyclops and Wolverine have that moment, and Wolverine's like, you're going to tell me to stay away from your girl, aren't you? And Cyclops is like, well, if I had to do that, she wouldn't be my girl now, would she? And then what does he say right before he leaves the room? But also stay away from my girl. You just said that if you said stay away from my girl, she wouldn't be your girl. Cyclops, you should have made the power move. You should have said, I'm not going to have to say that because she is my girl and I don't need to fucking reiterate it. And then you walk out the room. And then he turns around and he says, oh, but stay away from my girl. You little fucking cuck, Cyclops. Fucking cucklops. Like, you've undermined yourself before you could even fucking get going. You didn't need to say that. She's with you. You know, you're the one who has to sleep in the room when the room's shaking and shit. Like, you fucking put the time in. You put the hours in, the effort in. Like, the only one who's undermining Cyclops is Cyclops. That's what I'm saying. Like,
51 minutes in, I'm clipping that.
But I think Cyclops is. I think Cyclops serves the exact role he's supposed to serve. You know who I think gets a fucking raw deal in these first three X-Men movies more than Cyclops is Storm, because Storm has no fucking arc in any of these movies. The accent fluctuates, the hair fluctuates. She doesn't really. She's just there as like a supporting character, just for somebody to bounce dialogue off of every now and then. I'll tell you what I do like about Storm, and it's the one thing that everyone doesn't like about Storm, is the fucking Toad line. I fucking love the Toad line, man. You know what happens to a toad when it's hit by lightning? The same thing that happens to everyone else. She's right. She's fucking right. I thought it was a good line for her to say right before she fucking blows him off the balcony of, or the Liberty, Statue of Liberty, whatever. Like, I don't know why people hate that line so much. I thought that was a fucking banger of a line to say to a motherfucker before you blow him off a fucking monument. Like,
yeah,
I thought she was great. The power set, the way she uses her powers in those first two movies, at least, is great. But as far as Storm as a character, there's not really a lot there going on. And
but as a kid, like I turned to my dad because I watched the movie with my dad, and when she said the line, I just went, "What does that mean?" Like, he dies.
It's not like it's not like a proverb or anything. It's no like meaning. It's not a riddle. It's just she's just saying it. You know what? She's a thief who grew up in fucking Africa. She's not a fucking SNL writer. Do you know what I mean? Like, give her a break. But I mean, I say that she's a thief from Africa. We don't really get any backstory to her, at least until we get to another movie, which we'll get to, and it's not the best. But yeah, I think it's fine. Again, she just doesn't have much of an arc, but I think her powers are pretty well served. Jean Grey doesn't have loads of personality, and more like what she has to work with is kind of just like mildly flirtatious banter off of Marsden and Jackman. But she's pretty great. I tell you what, in one of the early scenes in the first X-Men movie where she's like giving the speech, about like mutation, they're in front of like, United Nations or whatever and all that kind of stuff. She's very, what do I want to say, sort of like secretarial. She's got a very like business-like demeanor, that I think really works. But there's, aside from playing sort of the tennis ball to Logan and Scott's rackets, she doesn't really have much to do for the first two movies, but they do a great job. I tell you what, at the end of X-Men 2, and we'll talk a little bit more about X-Men 2 in a second, but the end of X-Men 2, where she holds the jet, she holds the fucking tidal wave and all of that kind of stuff, and it all fucking crashes down, and you think she's dead, but you know, it's Jean Grey. If you know the comics and the animated stuff, Jean Grey will always fucking, like a tennis ball, she will always fucking bounce back, right? And that fucking scene at the end where you see the fucking Phoenix under the water and they're setting up, and you're like, that was the first time I think comic book movies have been chasing that dragon, that Phoenix, as it were, since then. Because that was the first time you had one of these movies where they set something up that you knew was going to like come, like a big comic book storyline. The fans, we know they're setting that up now. That's the Phoenix. We're setting that up for a sequel. And I think X-Men 3 did pretty well at the box office as well, despite not being as good as the first two. And I think a big part of it was that tease and that build up and that anticipation for like, oh shit, they're setting us up for the Phoenix. Here we go. And then we get to the Phoenix and it's not maybe what you want it to be. A couple of other things. Let's backtrack into X-Men 2 a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, one of the best adaptations, one of the best portrayals of a character, one of the best action scenes in any comic book movie will never be touched is Nightcrawler, X-Men 2. I went to see this fucking movie. This was the first time I went to see a movie more than once in the cinema. I saw X-Men 2 4 times when it came out. Most of the reason that I went to see it was for that opening scene, because I wanted to follow, like, you know, what he was doing. Like, you know, he's whipping up guards, he's running down corridors, he's running towards you, then he's not, then he's fucking tripping you up and throwing you up in the air, you know, and then he's got the fucking dagger, mutant rights or whatever, mutant freedom. Again, for an opening scene, completely setting up like the whole plot and the theme of the movie to come. Was perfect.
Fucking brilliant scene, honestly.
Alan Cumming, pretty well cast. Like, he's not done much else outside of X-Men. We won't talk about Son of the Mask, all right? And I think he was in maybe one of the Spy Kids movies as well as the bad guy.
Yeah, he's in Burlesque as well.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. With Cher and Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about? We both seen that movie. We don't need to address it.
No.
It's fine. Welcome to Burlesque. Anyway, you know, young up and coming singer Christina Aguilera got to make it in the harsh world of the fucking raunchy sex club, and good times, everyone. If you haven't seen that, Alan Cumming is in that, but he's no Nightcrawler. And the way they do the whole every time they introduce him to a new character, and he goes, "But in the circus, I was known as the Flying Knight," or you know, like, and he gets cut off every time, and fucking great. And you know, they did so much with his character, like with all the brutal, like religious carvings and the mind control, and like the you know, the sort of social outcast of it all, and then to have him also like be like one of the main points of comic relief in that movie. Like, if you were doing that now, those are two separate characters. You know, you're going to have your dark brooding character and your outcast, and then you're going to have your comic relief characters. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that they managed to get that dichotomy and, you know, the juxtaposition, which again, like, sells like the themes and stuff of this movie, where it's like, you know, he is more than meets the eye. You know, just because he's like a blue scary devil dude, you know, that doesn't reflect what he is on the inside necessarily. And it's only what society has done to him that kind of forces that blue devil pariah kind of role onto him. That's not necessarily who he is. And stuff. You've got one of my favorite X-Men characters really gets a good time to shine in X2 and gets another standout scene. That's my boy Bobby Drake, Iceman, everybody. Shawn Ashmore does a great job. Oh, he does appear in X-Men 1. And he has one of my favorite moments. If anyone wants to listen to this or watch this, and then you feel like you want to go and watch the X-Men movies, which I hope you do, because it's a great it's a fun series overall. We'll get more into the details of that later on. But there's one moment in X-Men 1 that you will want to pause, and it's where Mystique poses as Bobby Drake to infiltrate the X-Mansion, and she goes down into Cerebro, right? And if you pause it at the right moment, you get Rebecca Romijn's body with Shawn Ashmore's head, okay? And that is a sexy chimera of a fucking combination beast right there. Tell you what, Shawn Ashmore on fucking Mystique's body, those piercing eyes and that curvy body, it's like, you know, it's a bisexual awakening for anyone, right? I tell you that much, right? You will feel confused and aroused when you see that, right? Which is all part of X-Men, you know. It's all puberty, it's growing up, it's coming of age, you know, learning to accept yourself, you know. Obviously, Mystique and Rebecca Romijn is fucking phenomenal through all three of these films. If that's not getting your black leather in a twist, you know what I mean? Like, anything for you, McManus? X-Men 2. Did X-Men 2 live up to the first one? Did it surpass the first one?
Yeah, I think it did. I've got to say, I favour X-Men 2 over the first one. It's just,
yeah, I think a lot of people would agree.
The wait for it was like a bit, and when I was so excited when I went to the cinema to watch it, and it didn't disappoint. And how much I actually wanted to murder the guy who played Stryker. Like, but
Brian Cox is fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, he is fucking amazing in this movie.
Of course, because he was the original Hannibal Lecter in the Manhunt movie that they made before Silence of the Lambs, which is a adaptation of the Red Dragon book, or was Red Dragon I don't know if it was called Manhunt or Red Dragon. Either way, if you want to see Brian Cox play Hannibal Lecter, some people would argue that he's a better Hannibal Lecter than Anthony Hopkins. It's just that the movie's not quite as good and didn't get as much traction, obviously. Definitely check that out. I think it's directed by Michael Mann, I want to say. I might be wrong. And then, Red Dragon is which is basically the remake of that movie, but with the Anthony Hopkins version instead. But absolutely incredible X-Men 2 with the again, the whole Wolverine's past and how it just seamlessly, like, it goes between all these different characters, you know, bringing in, you know, the cast of the first one, plus, like, you know, a good, like, half a dozen new characters with Nightcrawler, Stryker, Lady Deathstrike, all of this stuff, and it Pyro, and it juggles perfectly between all of them. Like, it just scene, nothing is fucking wasted. Everything serves the plot. You know, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago as well. Wolverine finally goes berserker mode on all those guards in the X-Mansion. Like, if you weren't sold on Jackman being able to, you know, carry Wolverine after the first one, I think a lot of naysayers probably shut up after seeing X-Men 2 and that mansion. Even if he is a bit tall and he's wearing a vest all the time, like, he embodies the character, I think, pretty fucking perfectly.
I've got to ask, I've got to say, before that scene starts, you know, when he goes into the kitchen and Iceman's sitting there, and it's just goes up to the fridge.
Yeah.
Got any beers? Like, this is a school.
This is a school, good sir. This is a Wendy's. Yeah. I love all that stuff.
He goes in the fridge and gets Dr. Pepper and just like,
you see him like he gets the drink. It's like, because it's in the cupboard, it's not in the fridge, right? And he gets the drink out, and you see him do that little mind leap in his brain where he's just like, I remember you could do that, and he gives him the drink. He's like,
you're such. You're a dick.
Yeah, and he's like, sure. He's like, I've done this so many times. I'm basically just a walking fridge.
Yeah.
Like, everyone just comes up to me, shoving bottles of fucking Dr. Pepper in my face day in, day out. You know, I don't even go to parties anymore because I'm just basically an ice machine with legs, right? Like, Yeah, I love that scene. And
Every time I see that scene, though, I want a bottle of Dr. Pepper, and I want I want it chilled.
it always make I know what you mean. I always get the
Shameless
hankering for
It's where product placement actually
yeah,
works.
something nostalgic, man, about the
Yeah,
fucking having a carbonated drink in a glass bottle,
yeah,
like because
yeah,
you don't really
yeah.
get that anymore, you know.
No, you
Um,
don't.
but more Iceman stuff. We get the coming out scene, which is very. I mean, I would say it's on the nose, but I think it doesn't feel like hitting you over the head with it, you know. But obviously, him telling his parents that he's a mutant it's a coming out, you
Yeah.
know, as
Have you tried
gay
to be?
scene.
Have you've tried to be normal?
Have you
What?
tried not being a mutant? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great. And then you've got the angry brother who's like, you know, he's
Oh,
getting all the
yeah. I don't.
attention because he's got this thing, he's
Mutant. I
this
don't have any
different thing,
powers.
and I haven't got that, you know. And it's almost like where like your mum would love the kid, like the gay son, more because they can like, you know, go shopping or whatever, and they're going to get all this attention because they've got this, you know, thing, you know, going on that the other kid hasn't or whatever. And you just again just how it like parallels, you know, just everyday like mundane situations. He's just perfect. And you'll tell you what, in X-Men 3 there's a scene very similar to this that I think is one of the highlights of X-Men 3. And it's I think it's like the one of the opening scenes where you've got young Angel and he's in the bathroom and he's like carving himself up in the sink, and the
Yeah,
dad's
yeah.
banging on the door and he's like, what's
Like,
going
what
on
the
in there?
fuck
You've
are you
been in there
doing in
so
there? Yeah,
long. And then when he finally breaks in, like the kid's panicking. This kid is such a good actor. He's sweating, he's freaking out, he's panicking, he's trying to hide all these knives, he's got all these blood and feathers in the fucking sink. And then the dad busts in and he's like, I'm sorry, and he's crying, he's apologizing, and then you see the camera moves around and you get the reflection in the mirror, in the bathroom mirror, and then you see the fucking wing nubs on his back where he's been trying to like it's brutal. This poor kid was so scared, he's been trying to fucking cut his own limb, like he's basically
limbs
cutting
off.
his
Yeah,
own limbs off, like because he's got these things growing out of him, and it's just this whole body horror, like self-harm, you know, like. And then the rest of X-Men 3 happens, because I see X-Men 3, and again, like you say, Phoenix Saga, this is going to be epic, like third one, here we go. Then that first scene, which I do think lives up to like the quality of the first two X-Men movies, and then it's just like it's just an Iceman downhill slide after that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Did you like X-Men 3? Where am I being harsh?
I like the idea of it. I like the ending, and like I like Logan's story in it because he's just. I love the ending because, well, I'm just a pussy for endings like that. But I was expecting so much fire. No, Jean Grey just turns everyone into fucking dust clouds.
Not only does she just turn everyone into dust clouds, that's when she does something, because a lot of the time she's just standing there, just watching Magneto or just letting things happen around and just letting herself be used as this like weapon or this like bargaining chip where you've got like Professor X and Magneto and Wolverine and all kind of like fighting over her.
Yeah, well,
And it's like
it's one of the deleted scenes. I'd rather they would have put it in there. You know, when she takes apart the gun, the plastic gun, is like, it will secure us, and like she just turns, like she basically just, I don't know what she makes, but it looks like a black hole that can just wipe out mutants if she wanted to. I can make this, and then it just does the pulsing. It's like, Jane, stop! And it's like, why? Why do I have to stop? Like they should have kept that bit in.
Because Professor X has the line, and they say the same line as well in Dark Phoenix, where it's like she's all rage and desire and power and whatever, like, and it's like, but then she just stands there and she just lets herself be used as like a pawn, and And in the final battle of X-Men 3, she just waits around till everything else has happened, and then she decides to join. It's like, well, if she's all rage and uncontrollable power, surely she would just be fucking wrecking shit the whole time, just flying around, just blowing shit up, disintegrating everything, just not thinking at all, as opposed to just like she's waiting in line at the post office, you know? Like, what an absolute fucking letdown of a fucking plot line.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely ridiculous. You've got like I say, there's like 2 or 3 really good scenes in X-Men 3. You've got the opening scene with Angel. We get to see the Sentinels in the Danger Room. That's pretty cool. And literally the whole arc of the X-Men in this movie is we've got to learn to work as a team. It's like, you've been doing that for two movies, and now your whole thing is, oh, well, we've got to learn to work together and use our powers together and not, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've already been doing that. That's such a pointless fucking arc for everyone to have. But another highlight scene is probably the one scene that most people will talk about in this movie is Magneto with the bridge, right? And I'm watching that scene, I thought it was going to look, rewatching it, like I thought it was going to look so bad. But I tell you what, the fucking effects in that scene hold up so well. And like, you know, every fucking rivet and screw and girder and fucking bit of rubble when he fucking, the music and when he lifts that whole thing up, does the whole epic moment. And I'll tell you what, this sums it up perfectly, right? He finally drops the bridge on the island because they're going to go and get this kid with the cure. And then he says, Charles did always want to build bridges. I'm like, what? Really? You're making puns? Charles just died. You just watched your best friend of like 60 years get disintegrated in front of you. You're now on your fucking political mission to go and destroy this cure that's going to wipe out your whole race, which is everything that you're standing against your whole life, Magneto, and you're making bridge puns. Just fucking completely undercut and ruin the whole fucking scene. Like, is that what we're doing now? You got fucking one of my favorite, because you get a lot of mutants in this one. They're like, we're just going to throw all kinds of crazy mutants in the background, you know, because it's this, we got to have cannon fodder, or pawns as Magneto calls them, for the final battle, right? But there's this one dude, you know, when they go into the church, when Magneto goes into the church, he's like, I think they're meant to be like the Morlocks, you know, all the raggedy fucking mutants, right? And they're all having the meeting in the church. And there's the fucking big bald mutant who goes to sit down and there's nowhere to sit down, and he turns into a skinny mutant. And he just sits in between them.
I thought you were going to fucking crush me. Nice one, dude.
The other 2 people, they look at him like, oh, fuck. And then he shrinks down and sits down in between them. Right. Yeah. It's funny. It's funny, but it just, again, it's just a highlight sort of like how they've, you know, it didn't need to be there, and we're just using powers for fucking slapstick gags or whatever, and it's just completely missing the point of what these movies are about. What I want to know though, McManus, about this bloke, because is he a big bloke whose power is to turn skinny, or is it a skinny bloke whose power is to turn into a big mutant?
I'd say the second one, because you don't have to stick your head up your ass.
It's like, got to be down. Right.
Yeah, you just got to stick your head up your ass, and you're a fucking bowling ball. Like,
because how shit of a power would that be if you're like a big muscle fucking man and your power is to turn into a skinny man? Like,
most useless power ever. It's like, what's your power? I can turn fat. Yeah, fucking anyone can turn fat, mate.
Yeah, you know, give me 2 years and 3 lockdowns, and I'll do that for you. I fucking did it, mate. We've all done it. And then we get Spiky Man, fucking. You know what? Fucking, it creeped me out, right? When they're raiding the medical facility at the end, and he says to that nurse or that fucking scientist, he's like, it's gonna be okay. Shh. And he hugs her and then just fucking spikes her, just fucking pricks her like a dartboard. I was like, fuck, that was dark.
Yeah, that was
really fucking sinister. again, it's so frustrating because there's so many of those like really like impactful moments just sprinkled in, but then there's just so much fucking shitty fucking one-liners and slapstick jokes. Fucking Angel has that one opening scene and then he basically does nothing for the rest of the movie. He's barely in it. You get a fucking great actor like Ben Foster who just does nothing for the whole movie, and he just literally just swoops in and rescues his dad at the end. You know. But you can't see it here in the picture, right? But in the marketing for the movie, he's wearing a fucking X-Man uniform. He doesn't do that in the movie. He's just wearing a fucking overcoat and does nothing. It's fine. It don't matter. You people have seen the movie, but like, I mean, I do like that Professor X is like, you know, we see this in this version of Phoenix and in X-Men Dark Phoenix, where like we do see more of like the, you know, he's not just like this straight up like saint of a bloke, you know what I mean? Like he does have to make some like unsavory decisions through a lot of these movies. Speaking of unsavory decisions, fucking Magneto, when Mystique gets the cure, she gets fucking shot for him, and he's just like, "Yeah, you're dead to me now." Like, fuck,
Eric. I'm sorry, my dear. You're no longer one of us. Fuck you.
It's like she literally did that to protect you, and it's like he's literally just like, he's just as racist. He's fucking he's a mutant Nazi. He's just like, no, that's it. Like, I'm all high and mighty and I'm better than everyone else. And but then I will literally just turn coat. Don't matter if you fucking give your life for me, your fucking identity, you fucking throw yourself in the firing line for me. And then as soon as you're like, not what I need you to be or what I want you to be, like, that's it. Like, no morality, mate. No fucking morality. Again, a really effective moment. But they're just so few and far between. Unfortunately, another banger of an end credit scene though. Is he gonna move the chess piece? Is he gonna move the chess piece? And it's like, well, obviously later on we see him in other movies and he's got his powers back. So I guess he got his powers back. Wolverine, by the way, regenerates his trousers in this movie. What's that about? He's getting disintegrated. Everything's getting disintegrated. Cars and fucking lampposts and mutants and his fucking shirt and fucking weapons and tanks. Everything's getting melted, but not those trousers, baby.
Not the green trousers, not them trousers.
Those trousers we need. He's got fucking unstable molecule Fantastic Four trousers on, I reckon. Love it. Those leather pants, mate. That's why the black leather. That's why they had it. It's just fucking invincible.
Right? Reed Richards run it.
Loving it. So then we get no X-Men for a while. And then, well, no, we do, because we get, oh shit, what order are we going to do this? All right, let's breeze quickly through the Wolverine. We're going to get Wolverine movie, X-Men Origins Wolverine. They was originally going to do a whole fucking series of these for different X-Men, but then this one was poorly executed and poorly received, because they were going to do X-Men Origins Wolverine, then the next one was going to be Magneto. They eventually, when Wolverine didn't do that well, I think that Magneto script eventually turned into First Class, because a lot of that is a Magneto origin movie. But I was so, you know, Wolverine's getting a solo movie. He's fucking X-Man is going out on his own. We're going to get the origin and big cartoon claws again. Lots of fucking pointless characters, pointless powers, lots of stupid one-liners. I don't know. Do you feel differently on that one?
No, they were quite, like you say, ridiculous one-liners, and it was just, it just felt all over the place, and like they were trying to put people in here like to nod to the comics, but it's just like, what the fuck is going on?
I don't mind. A lot of people did mind. I don't mind that they made Wolverine and Sabretooth brothers. I thought that was fine. Like, it kind of tied their sort of relationship was kind of like the highlight of that movie. That whole opening scene where they're running through the wars.
That's one of my favorite. That is
Epic.
one of my favorite scenes. Yes.
It's pretty epic. I mean, when that fucking other guy comes smashing into the house with the gun or whatever at the beginning, and you're like, well, obviously that's fucking there. I mean, look at them compared to the fucking dad that we had in who we thought was his dad. It's just this fucking, you know, white collar fucking prissy boy, and it's like then this big fucking mutton chop motherfucker walks in. It's like, well, look at the obviously that's who he is. And then obviously the kid screaming with the bone claws wasn't really as effective as you would want it to be. It's kind of a bit laughable, I think, to be honest, especially when you watch it now, this puny little kid, you know, trying to go full berserker rage. What else is good about this? I couldn't believe that Richard Donner produced this, by the way. Fucking blew my mind to see Richard Donner's name in the fucking credits of this. Director of Superman the movie, everybody, now brings to you X-Men Origins Wolverine. So that's fun. The fact that the wife, he's got the wife who's obviously got the influence powers. How do you not fucking see that shit? She's doing it like the whole movie. She's calming down fucking lumberjacks and drunks and bullies like the whole fucking time. It's like that's right in front of your face. Like you should be able to smell that she's a mutant, surely. What else is fun? So I want to talk about the blob scene, McManus. We talk about the fat man who gets skinny and the skinny man who gets fat. So he says, so he's like, right, I need to get some information from this guy so I can find out where the fucking mutant island is or whatever. And he's like, right, well, Blob knows. Why Blob knows and none of the others know, because they all worked in the same fucking unit, is fucking beyond me. Yeah. Right, so they're like, well, Blob knows. He's like, Fred knows, was he Fred Jukes or whatever? Fred knows, right? He's like, just don't make any fat jokes. Don't say anything about his weight, right? Bear in mind, Wolverine is like lost his wife. He's trying to like find like redemption, like and revenge. This is like important life's mission, and all you've got to do to find out where you need to go is to not make a fat joke. So what does he do? Just walks in there. Oh, you've been putting on the pounds, how you fucking drinking milkshakes? Like straight away, he goes in there. He makes like 4 fat jokes in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're trying to avenge your dead wife, and all you need to do is to ask this dude and not be a dickhead to him, right? And then the one time that oh, by the way, Fred Jukes, who apparently doesn't like fat jokes, doesn't react to any of them. And it's not until he says the one thing that isn't a fat joke, where he calls him Bub, and he's like, did you call me blood? It's like, what are we doing? This just whole scene, just to have, it's like, oh, but you've got to have a boxing match with him. What is this, a fucking video game? To fucking get the fucking key, you've got to beat the boss. Like, why are we doing this? Like, just tell him. Just so we can have cartoon claws coming out the boxing glove. Like, this whole movie's a fucking mess, man. Like,
it's fucking ironic you say that, because the guy who plays Blob, he's
a good actor. He's a good actor.
He's doing
Kevin Durand.
He's doing the rounds right now because he's in the latest Planet of the Apes movie. Like,
yes, he plays the main or the villain.
Day.
Man, like the CGI explosions and the helicopters. It looks like a fucking Robert Rodriguez like Grindhouse trailer. Like Gambit's got fucking climbing a wall powers for some reason. Like we just had to have Gambit in here. So again, it's like another boss fight moment. It's like, okay, well, you've got to go to this dude and play him at cards. Then you've got to go to this dude and have a boxing match. It's like, what? Like, really? You would just fucking pop the claw, fucking tell me what I need to know, and I'll be on my way. That's it. Like, it's just Wolverine. Like, he's
So
not fucking asking for permission and playing your stupid fucking games when his wife's just been murdered and he's had everything stripped away from him. I don't know. I've got nothing else.
like, where
Nothing
were they
else.
going with this?
Nowhere. Where the, like,
Quickly
again, the relationship with him and Sabretooth and how it all kind of, they kind of reluctantly team up at the end and fight Deadpool, who's not Deadpool, but you know, that's what we thought. That was what we had. This is the Deadpool we got. Ryan Reynolds was great up until that point, and then it's just like, nah.
I love how Ryan Reynolds, like, any option he gets to shit on that character, like the one from Origins, he will fucking take it.
Here's an interesting thing about this, right? Because Ryan Reynolds has said many times that he didn't know that's what they were going to do with the character, and that he said in interviews, you can look this up, that he played Wade Wilson, and then it's not him as Deadpool, and he didn't know they were going to do that with the character. I looked at that fucking face. That is Ryan Reynolds. He's fucking bullshitting, and he was just saying that to try and make, you know, to kind of give himself the fucking out of the situation and not look bad. But you played your part in that, Ryan Reynolds. That's you as the fucking Baraka. It looks. Look at the eyes, man. Look at the eyes. That is Ryan Reynolds. That is not a stunt double. That is Ryan Reynolds. He agreed to put that makeup on and do that shitty version of the character. And again, he brought it round. He's a fantastic Deadpool now. But don't try and bullshit me just to try and get the fucking fans on your side and say that you didn't believe in that version. That is you, right?
Yeah, it's like, it was in the interview. He said this, like, am I getting it mixed up with Green Lantern? But it was one of the movies he is in and he fucking hates. And he goes, he just goes, well, yeah, they gave me an ultimatum of play this character or we'll get someone else. So like I had to play him. So
people always get up on their high horse when it's like when fans don't like something, and they say, oh well, you know, I love the character and I respect the law, but that's not what it's like. You read the script. You fucking read the script and you saw how much money they were going to pay you and you said yes. You don't give a fuck about the quality. You only care when people don't like the quality. Yeah, that's when you care. But if people would have said that they liked that version of Deadpool, he would have said he liked that version. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is not just Ryan Reynolds. This is any actor in any of these roles. They will only come out and nobody ever has a really well-received character or a well-received movie and then comes out and saying, that's not the version I signed on to play, man. Like, no, you only say that when it was shit. So moving on. Last thing about this movie is that when the wife, who's alive again, and she tells Stryker to go walk until his feet bleed. They're on an island that's about 4 meters long. Like, how far is he walking? Right?
Into the ocean.
Into the ocean. Like, that's what he would have done, right? This island, by the way, that's about, you know, a mile in circumference, you know, if you're being generous, apparently has its own paramedics, police force, fire service. Like, it's a secret fucking island. Why have they got fucking government-run services? Anyway, it's not a good movie, but it's all right, everyone, because we're getting X-Men. We're getting Wolverine, the Wolverine. He's going to Japan. We're doing the Japanese storyline. I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's because I watched this right at around the time that we'd watched Shogun, but this is fucking it's Shogun. The plot is the same. He's fucking lone man in a foreign land in Japan. They're forcing him to have a bath, right? The female lead is even called Mariko.
Yeah.
Like, whoever wrote this Wolverine movie had been watching had been reading Shogun.
Had been reading Shogun, definitely.
They had and Frank Miller was probably, because this is loosely based on the Frank Miller era of Wolverine, him and Claremont did the Japanese saga. They've clearly been reading Shogun. Like, there's fucking Shogun all over this, and it's fine. It's fine. One of my main issues with this, right, is that the Japanese, like the old Japanese guy that he helped in the war, Wolverine should not remember that. but he agrees to come and say goodbye to him anyway, even though he doesn't remember it. But because we already saw it in the other movie, because do you know what I mean?
That went right over my head. Yeah, fuck.
The movie operates on the presumption that because we saw X-Men Origins Wolverine, that Wolverine must have seen X-Men Origins Wolverine, because how else would he know anything that happened previous to what?
Yeah.
But when they're like, oh, you helped me, and he's like, yeah, I'll come and say goodbye. He doesn't once say, wait, how did we meet again? Yeah. What, how do we know each other? What was we doing? Did you come to Canada or did I come to Japan? Like, how did our paths? He doesn't fucking ask. He just goes along with it like a moron. Of course you're getting sucked into a trap.
Sorry to cut you off. Carry on. I've just got
Absolutely, right? No idea. But Wolverine, it's all right, everyone. He's read the Chris Claremont, Frank Miller run. He knows what's going on. He watched X-Men Origins Wolverine. I'm sorry, Wolverine, that you had to endure that, right? But all of that aside, the aesthetic is good. You know, the look of him is good. He's got a good build, you know, as far as like the body type and the workout and stuff. The hair and the mutton chop combo is because it was getting a bit fucking mullet-like and crazy in even from like X2 onwards up to X-Men Origins Wolverine. They kind of went a bit overboard with the hairstylings, but in this one it's a bit tighter, it's a bit leaner. You know, the black suit that he's wearing for a lot of this movie really helps, like, you know, tie him together. He's looking pretty suave and dapper, but he's still looking like a Wolverine. Like they really struck a good balance with that. And even with just the movie in general, like, you know, it's sort of fairly back to basics, you know, not loads of crazy, nobody's doing light bulb powers or laser beams or, you know, flipping around all over the place, you know, shooting guns and bullets are bouncing everywhere. Like, there's none of that stuff in this movie. You think it's all just a straightforward, you know, samurai lone warrior kind of storyline, and it's all going okay. There's some of the CGI when they do employ it, you know, on the train and stuff. It's not the best, but you can tell that it's just, we're on a ride, and it's a Wolverine ride. It's Wolverine centered. None of these other fuckers from the Black Ops team with what's his name, Hobbit boy, and Kevin Durand is, you know, blob and all that. None of that stuff. We're having a good time. And then we get about 2/3 of the way through the movie. He gets loads of arrows shot into him, goes on a little bit long, whatever, bit pointless. You know, you could have done the same job with like 10 dudes, right? And some ropes, whatever, some chicken wire maybe, if you're feeling fruity, right? And then the big bad villain reveals himself. We've got fucking Poison Ivy from Batman and Robin gets involved in the situation, fucking blowing dust in your face, giving you fucking evil death kisses, and a big fucking samurai robot. And it was like, it was me all along. And it's a big, like, that's a shiny robot. It's a real shiny fucking robot. Like, this old guy, like, he's sick and dying, but somehow he had time to polish his goddamn robot suit every night for the last 60 years or whatever it's been. His little head popping out of the suit, you know, he's all dying and shit, but he's still fucking powering around, stomping around, fighting Wolverine, cuts his claws off. The whole point of Wolverine, it's like the main thing that everyone knows about his character is those claws are indestructible. So what are we going to do? We're going to cut them off, everybody. We're just going to cut them off. It's that easy. You can just, if you get adamantium on adamantium and maybe warm it up in the microwave, you can cut through the other like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this whole movie just descends into a cartoon, McMahon. It's like I say, it starts off good. It's all like lone warrior, you know, some cool fights on the train and and the arrows, and it's all fairly like down to basics. And then all of a sudden the movie just goes, fuck it, poison ivy and a big robot, like, and that whole thing just really brought this whole movie down for me. Like, I was just like, this is not the Wolverine that I wanted. Have you got anything else to say about that, or should we get through Logan?
That was bollocks. That I've got to say, that was a stupid scene, and whoever fucking wrote that into the script and whoever filmed it, like having any knowledge on fucking like adamantium,
garbage,
all those is just like
garbage, completely unnecessary. And by the way, by the time we get to the next time we see him in a movie, he's got them back and we've never addressed it ever again. So what are we doing? And again, continuity is not being the focal point of these movies, which, is fair to a degree, because these movies kind of started out in a time where you wasn't doing, long standing universes with interconnecting characters, and they didn't plan ahead, so you'll get like Professor X, he's walking in the flashback scene in X-Men 3, but then in X-Men First Class he gets paralyzed way earlier, and actors are changing and nothing matches up. And I don't mind if they ignore, I would rather have a good movie than a bad movie with bad continuity than a bad movie with good continuity. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I can take that stuff or whatever, like if Don Cheadle was Terrence Howard or whatever in one movie and then in another movie, like I can get over that stuff as long as it's good. Like I'm not too finicky about it. No. But he's got the claws back, and Logan, I tell you what, they do bring the claws back, like metaphorically, and they're like, we're gonna do Mad Max with mutants, is what we're gonna do. And there he is, walking in the desert. Old man Logan influence. We got old man Patrick Stewart, or as we call him now, just Patrick, who's fucking old and cranky and senile. He does a fantastic job of like shifting between like being like with it and then being like all kind of losing it and having the seizures and having those like delusional moments, all that stuff. Patrick Stewart he really gets a good chance to like he's exercising those stage muscles, like he does a really good job. Hugh Jackman is just basically Hugh Jackman now. It's fine. It's like we don't care about the fucking hair or the fucking vest as much, like, and he will wear the vest, but not until the later part of the movie. Right. We got Stephen Merchant as fucking Caliban, which was out of left field, who I think is pretty good. I did like Stephen Merchant as Caliban, to be honest. He's fine for the first like 10 minutes. He's basically doing the Igor. He's all hunched over and he's speaking all weird and he's all creepy. And then after the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, he basically just starts talking and quipping like Stephen Merchant, I think. But he was okay. I was surprisingly. He was surprisingly okay. When they announced him, I was like, really? Stephen Merchant is going to be in this? Okay. Richard E. Grant is just a generic scientist villain that doesn't show up until the last fucking 20 minutes. All right, I'm going to give my hot take, right? Everyone praises this movie. Everyone says, oh, it's so cool. I can't believe they took those risks and they made a gritty, R-rated, outside of the box. It's different from all the other superhero movies. This is cinema. This is what we want. This is top quality art. All right. I'm going to tell you now, right? Generic scientist villain that doesn't pop up until the last third of the movie. The main character fights a fucking evil CGI version of themselves. It's just because they've dressed it up like a fucking R-rated Mad Max fucking dusty, fucking Road Warrior movie. It still follows all the fucking tropes of every other fucking superhero movie. And I tell you what, it's fine. Logan is just fine. It's better, and it's obviously the fact that it's better than the other two Wolverine movies, which ain't that fucking hard. I think people give this one way too much credit. It really took not a lot of effort to make this memorable.
I think it's just to do with like how it makes you feel, because this movie does like
it does have the feel sometimes,
yeah,
more than others. And and you do carry that with you. Oh, and because they killed him at the end, big fucking whoop. Like, you killed the immortal soldier. Like, you fucking, in the last movie, you cut the unbreakable claws, and in this movie, you killed the unkillable man. So fucking well done for breaking logic there. Like, just, but again, like you say, it does give you the emotions, but I'm just like, they do kind of like have to, they do still jump through a couple of hoops to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do.
Let's quickly scroll through my notes on Logan, because I do have notes in all of these. And so, right, so talk about the fucking CGI version, or the clone of Wolverine, right? The whole point of the bad guys in this movie, the whole movie, they're like, we've got to get that kid back. She's our little Wolverine clone. She's going to be the ultimate soldier. We're going to sacrifice so many goons, so much money, because we want to track down this kid, right, and get the kid. And then you find out at the end that they've got a fucking fully grown Wolverine fucking in the closet anyway. So why do you even need her? Why are you spending all this fucking money and all these fucking guys getting killed to try and track down this kid? Just fucking cut your losses and just use the fucking Wolverine clone that you've had sitting there the whole movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, the logic, it's a better than average X-Men movie, but the logic just, it falls, like, if you look at it too long, it falls apart. This movie is an art house movie for people who don't know what a fucking art house movie is. Like, if you've never seen Mad Max, then this shit will blow your mind, right? But if you've fucking been around for longer than 5 fucking years, watching more than just, you know, Iron Man 2, then this really, I don't know, it doesn't, it's just not as good as you think it is, as I think a lot of people seem to think it is, in my opinion. I do like X-23. She's fucking great. Daphne Keane is really cool. When her and Wolverine are fighting together and they're just instinctually like flipping each other and like throwing each other and back to back in it, and like the payoff, like you say, and all the emotional moments and the payoff all work.
They're just taking fucking asses, literally just ripping
out
of each other. It's like, get behind me, ah! And just slip. Like, fucking people are dying in this.
But this is basically just Mad Max and Taxi Driver mixed with Iron Man. If you really break down the plot, like, it's fine. I mean, everything's based on everything anyway. You can't get original stuff really anymore. But like putting the coordinates to the secret base in a fucking X-Men comic, the fact that X-Men comics exist in this universe is just weird when we're trying to make it all serious.
That threw me off. And then it's like, oh, we got a comic lover. It's like nothing.
Yeah,
it's nothing but a fairy tale. It's like, what? What's going on here? There were comics after you people.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird. It felt out of place. Like, if they would have had that in one of the other X-Men movies, I would have been like, oh, okay, you know, the X-Men have been on adventures and somebody's like writing versions of it, you know, or whatever. But to have it in this movie just felt really out of place. Oh, by the way, the Wolverine clone should have just been Sabretooth. They should have captured Sabretooth, and it should have been,
that would have been fucking cool.
Then you would have had that payoff and you would have wrapped up their relationship. I think that would have been really effective. Like, because the whole point of Sabretooth in that X-Men Origins, he's like, I want the adamantium as well. So in this movie, it could have been like they finally captured him, they gave it to him, but they also took away his mind. So he got what he wanted, but it's like a monkey's paw situation, and he lost his, you know, personality. And then Wolverine and Sabretooth would have had that final epic battle, and that would have tied it up. a little bit better for me, as opposed to just, oh no, we had a Wolverine clone this whole time and we could have just used that instead of why are we even making other X-23s and fucking other mutants? Like, you've got a Wolverine, your own personal life-size Wolverine action figure that you can just send on mission after mission after mission forever, and you just decided to waste it all. Yeah, wasted it all. Fucking Richard E. Grant and Boyd Holbrook, who's fine. They're all right in it, but I just like, it's not great. I like the Professor X, like when he's having the seizure and he freezes everything, and Wolverine's trying to claw his way in there.
But
And
was his mind like? I always want to know: was it him who killed all the X-Men? Like,
I
was it him
assume
having a
so.
seizure that killed them all?
I think maybe that was the case, yeah.
Or
And I'm wondering if that's going to tie into Wolverine and Deadpool as well. I'm wondering if in Wolverine and Deadpool, that version is going to be a variant who maybe tried to stop that from happening. So it's like the Logan timeline and the Wolverine and Deadpool like split off from that same moment, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, but I might be wrong. But anyway, gonna fucking First Class trilogy, McManus. How do you feel about those? Did you think they was worthy, or did you think they were kind of just dragging it out too long at that point?
I think it got to Dark Phoenix, and I was like, "Oh fuck me," because Dark Phoenix is just I just don't fucking like that movie. What? Not one.
Wow, we are different on that, because I think First Class is pretty good. It's got some up and down, but it's generally pretty good. Days of Future Past is pretty fucking great.
Yes, yeah.
Apocalypse is so bad. It's like X-Men 3, but without the fucking one-liners. And it's just, nothing makes any sense. Apocalypse learns the history from a TV, like he connects to the TV.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stupid shit, but First Class does a really good job of, like, again, it's the origin of Magneto and Professor X. I like how they're like mirrors their stories, where, you know, obviously Magneto, Holocaust, World War II, terrible, where we are, and Professor X is like all like loving it, having a great life, and him and Mystique's storyline is kind of like a coming of age comedy almost.
Yeah.
And then Magneto's storyline is like a political war thriller. And I think they do a really good job of like weaving those two in and out of each other. For the most part, I think Emma Frost is terrible. Her, like, one of the worst actresses in it, or worst performances I've ever seen. Like, she's just on autopilot. Like, Matthew, from what I understand, the director Matthew Vaughn and her had a bit of a thing going on, and maybe that's why she's in the movie. He likes his models, so I've heard. I mean, like what you like, do what you're gonna do. No disrespect, but you know, just be better in a movie. And Kevin Bacon, we got the Baconaissance started here, because Kevin Bacon hadn't really done a lot really for a while.
Yeah, I do. I love I love his actor in this, because he's just fucking.
He's great.
He's an evil bastard.
He does the German scientist bit really well. Then he does like the smooth 60s, like, you know, Playboy kind of thing really well as well. He's really like, his delivery is fantastic.
I had no idea the whole the Eric Lencher scene, and like at the beginning, like he wants to know what he does because he like kills his mum, and then he caves the entire room in, everything that has metal.
The helmets, when he crushes the helmets on their heads, I'm like, oh.
And I had no idea the whole scene where all the tables going fucking mental, like
it's all practical.
Yeah, it's all practical. I thought that was a whole CGI thing. It was like, no, like the guy in the background's like, I made all that do that. That was like, no fucking way. Like,
got a bunch of guys behind the wall with like wires attached to the cabinets, and like, quick now, pull. The effects in this are pretty fucking great. He does a really good job of like I say, mixing like humor and heart and like tension, and like Matthew Vaughn's a pretty good director, maybe not so much anymore, Argyle, but like does a really good job at mixing all of that stuff together. There's one thing that really fucking ruins this movie for me, and we're going to introduce a character who adapts to everything and anything, and he's a black guy, and he's the first and only character that dies.
Yeah.
So what was the point of that? And that whole bit, to be honest, right before then, like I think where we do the whole montage of introducing all the new characters, I think is pretty corny. And again, like it does a lot of the other movies, or at least the first couple, do a really good job of like naturally working in the powers into the plot and into the dialogue and into the story, so that you don't need to like stop and be like, oh, well, I'm going to call myself Banshee and I do a loud scream, and oh, I'm going to call myself Angel and I've got wings. It's like, what are we doing? Just have them demonstrate their powers in the movie when they need to use them. There's a whole scene where Azazel attacks the fucking CIA, which is pretty cool because he's just dropping them. It's raining men, you know, and he's doing all of that stuff. And all the fucking characters just stand there screaming like, ah, 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 ah. And it's like, have that be the time where they all show you what their powers are, instead of literally just sitting them in a circle and going around and like, you know, like naming them all fucking. So that kind of dragged the movie down, I think, when that middle part of the movie, it gets a little bit long and silly. But again, Magneto lifting up the fucking submarine and like the way he kills Kevin Bacon with the coin, and the whole fight on the beach at the end. I love it when a superhero movie is just two dudes rolling around punching each other. I think that always works well for me. But it's a mixed bag, I think, overall. First Class.
It is. It is, but like it's also good in some parts. Like the whole bit where Charles tries telling it like you always tap into your like hatred, right? Try thinking about like the people you love and like, or the last good memory you had, and he just turns the entire fucking thing as like, there we go.
There's some really, really effective moments like that, but like I say, it kind of starts losing its way a little bit, sort of in the middle of the movie. The first like hour, or the first like half hour 45 is fantastic, and the last sort of half hour is really great. There's just a little bit of a sag in the middle there for me, but I tell you what, there's no sag, right? Days of Future Past is just fucking rollicking from start to beginning. I tell you, when I heard that obviously that they were going to bring back the original cast and do this, I picked the wrong image for that. So that's fine. Literally just legs.
Oh, it is,
you know, at least the professor's on an even footing with everyone in that picture. Right. Moving on. So when they announced they were going to bring back the original cast with the First Class cast, and they were going to bring, I was like, that may be a bit too soon or ambitious, but I tell you what, this was the perfect thing to do. I tell you what, when I'm sitting in that movie and it fucking started and the fucking original X-Men movie theme kicked in, oh, my heart was pounding, mate. I was like, fuck, this brought me back again. This was 14, 15 years after the original one. And you get them scenes where you've got like the older versions of all the original. You've got Iceman and Colossus, and they're all working together, fighting fucking futuristic Sentinels. Like Professor X is in a floating chair. Like all of that stuff is fucking phenomenal. The time travel mechanics don't really make sense.
Nah. But it's just the point. It's like
it gets you there. Like you needed to do something. And like I said earlier, I don't mind if like the continuity or like there's a bit of a wonky plot device. If it gets the job done and it's effective and it makes for a good story and a good movie, then a little thing like that I will let slide. I can believe that Kitty Pryde can phase Wolverine's brain into the past. All right. I don't don't need to spend. If they would have done that and then the movie would have been shit, I would have been like, fuck that time travel device. That was stupid. They should have used Forge, who I really would like to see in a movie one day, by the way. I think Forge is a cool character.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, fucking Days of Future Past, mate. Like, again, you get to see the evolution of Jennifer Lawrence is slowly becoming the Rebecca Romaine version. Like, she's now like, she's been on her own, like as like an assassin and a political activist for 10 years. She's doing high kicks and flipping around. Like, she's become more of that classic Mystique. And I think she does a really good job of selling that transition. This is the last time Jennifer Lawrence does a good job as Mystique, because for the next 2 movies, she's playing Jennifer Lawrence. She just doesn't give a shit after this one. She's like, fuck you.
No.
I'm too famous. I don't want to wear the makeup. I don't want to put the blue paint on. I don't want to be naked. I just want to be Jennifer Lawrence. But this one is peak Mystique, Misty Peak. What else have we got for this one? Again, tying it into the historical events. Magneto killed JFK, or you think that he killed JFK, then it turns out he was trying to stop JFK, and that's why the bullet bent. I was like, that is some good shit right there. That makes fucking so much sense. JFK was a mutant. Like, all of this stuff. Peter Dinklage is fucking Bolivia Trask. Is a pretty fun choice, because they don't even say it in the movie, but to me, the subtext of Peter Dinklage in that role is like, this is a dude who sees people being born with extra, and he's like, I was born with less, you know.
Yeah.
And he never says this in the movie, but I think that's sort of implied, that like, this dude has got a chip on his shoulder because these fuckers can fly and I can't even reach the fucking kettle to make a cup of coffee. Like, could I not have wings so I could just fly up there and fucking pour the milk in? Like,
fuck them, I'm going to exterminate them.
You know what? That's it. I've got to fuck. I'm pissed off now. Their mutation is cool. Mine is less cool. And, you know, big respect, Peter Dinklage, fucking fantastic actor. But yeah, like, so I loved all that subtext, and again, like the political stuff, Mystique pretending to be him. I love that stuff. I love it when one of the other actors has to pretend to be Mystique, pretending to be themselves. And we get this a few times throughout the movies. The guy who plays Senator Kelly does it. Shawn Ashmore gets to do it. Peter Dinklage gets to do it. There's a couple of other times. I always love that pull the rug from under your feet when a character turns out to be Mystique. And then you can go back and watch them, and you're like, how is that actor like playing it differently, you know, to as if they're like Mystique pretending to be themselves kind of thing. And I always think that's pretty entertaining to watch.
It's good how they pull that off, and then it's like,
what I do hate though is that every time they do it, they have to do the yellow eye.
Yes,
just to make it obvious that you know. And it's like, this woman can turn into anything, anyone, anytime. She doesn't need to do the yellow eye. And if she's in a fucking, if she's undercover, why would she risk doing the yellow eye in case somebody sees her? But she's only doing the yellow eye for the audience. Always annoys me a little bit. That's fine.
Yeah,
also,
you have the yellow glint that comes up, like
little yellow glint. Yeah, just in case you're an idiot and you can't like read, you know, put the pieces together, you know, in the context of the scene or whatever. One quick thing about Mystique: when she turns into somebody, and she does the clothes as well, right? So if she turns into Peter Dinklage, right, and he's wearing a suit and a tie, yeah, like he does, if I cut the tie, is that her skin? Do you know what I'm saying? Is that, because I was thinking about this when I'm watching these movies. I'm like, it was really grossing me out, the idea that if I cut the tie off, that's like, it's like a skin flesh tie, because she uses her body to turn into the clothes as well.
Yeah.
Also, when she turns into Peter Dinklage, where does the extra mask go?
Oh no, because they actually answered this. like shortly as fuck in the first movie, because you know when she turns into Wolverine, pulls out the claws, and then Wolverine just cuts her claws off, and then she just screams, don't she? She's like, ah!
But then
Like,
when she's lost a part of her body forever. So that when she
yeah.
turns back into Mystique, there's going to be less of her than what there was before. So anytime she has something cut off of her as somebody else, and then she turns back into her, that extra mass is missing. So she would have to then fill it in with other mass from other parts of her body, basically like a liposuction and redistribution of the fat, right?
Mm.
So she would.
Any-
She weighs less after she gets the claws cut off, and then she turns back into Mystique. She now weighs less than what she weighed before she did that, and that must happen so many times in her life. I'm just, I don't know, I can't quite figure out what's going on there. That's all
well,
I'm saying. It's a bit gross.
Well, this by the like, at the end of the movie, she gets fucking shish kebabbed by fucking Wolverine anyway, so she should be fucking dead because she's got 3 giant claw marks in her sternum. So how she
Yeah.
fucking survived that, we don't like.
Why would she? If you can change, why would you keep the scars?
Exactly.
If you're you know he's gonna fill you up and he's gonna give you away. Like, come on. And even
like,
just from an aesthetic point of view, if you had the ability to shapeshift and you had like a scar on your body, you would probably just get rid of the scar, right? Just that
yeah,
that's the perk of having that power.
Every time you're changing into someone, you're technically regenerating. So she's got to fucking remember the scars just to put them back every time.
She's putting them back herself. Yeah, it's like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, the scars make us what we are, you know. Like Papa Roach said, the scars remind us that the past is real, right? But get rid of them. Get rid of them. You don't need them. Anyway, also, fucking Jennifer Lawrence says, like, the whole arc of her in these movies, especially in the first one, is mutant and proud, right? And she learns to accept that she just wants to be her blue self. And then after that, in all the rest of the movies, she constantly changes back and
Yeah.
She don't want to be. It's like, well, so not only is that annoying because the actress is just like, obviously I don't want to do the blue shit anymore, but it completely fucks the character as well, because they're like, well, the whole point of her was accepting, like, no, I don't want to be Raven, I don't want to be white, I want to be blue, I want to be Mystique, this is who I am, I'm proud, I want to fucking, we shouldn't have to change who we are. It's the whole message of these fucking movies, and Jennifer Lawrence just spits in the face of it. But that's fine, absolutely fine. I'm not mad, J-Law. I want to talk about Dark Phoenix. I think it's fucking great, McManus. I really like Dark Phoenix. I watched it again, obviously, for this recently. We kind of mentioned Apocalypse a little bit. I'm not going to go back to that. It's garbage movie, right?
I like Apocalypse. I like that movie.
I mean, it's entertaining, like, just from like a silly, mindless, like, effects and action kind of way, but it's pretty nonsensical.
I guess one of my favorite is, like, it's the beginning of the movie, because I like the whole shit and how they managed, like, to bring down the pyramids on him, because, well,
so he's been hiding in a tomb for thousands of years, and all she had to do to wake him up was to move a rug and the fucking sun shines on him. It's like, how has that not happened once in 5,000 years or whatever it's been? It's a rug. She's literally just like, there it is. Like, what? It's buried thousands of years and generations into the fucking earth. Like, he's long lost ancient fucking history, and he's under a rug.
And when he goes to Magneto, and Magneto's like, well, where the fuck have you been then? And like, I was asleep.
Right. Under a rug. Like, just down the back of the couch, mate. Like, he's just a fucking, like, Apocalypse, just the fucking, like, bits of, like, fluff and, like, chewing gum wrappers stuck to him. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I thought Dark Phoenix was pretty good. I think some of the acting isn't great, or some of the dialogue is a little bit bad. You can tell that Simon Kinberg is a first-time director, and he's doing a lot with, and it's a lot of movie, it's a lot of cast, it's a lot of effects. But I think the overall plot and how things unfold is really cool. I think it's a much better version of the Phoenix Saga. I think all the action is pretty great. They're in blue and yellow X uniforms, fighting as a team. Like, it reminds me very much of, like, because I think even with like the bad dialogue, it's like some of the dialogue is very on the nose. Like, I can't hold this power inside of me. It's like, you are Gene inside of you. You will always be Gene. Like, it's all a bit soap opera-ish dialogue.
Yeah.
But to me, that is very similar to how the Chris Claremont comic books were in the 80s. It's very like melodramatic, like everyone kind of just says what they're feeling all the time.
Nah.
So, and yeah, I think the fucking action is great. The last like third of that movie is just one long fucking action scene, from fighting in the streets to the train stuff. Cyclops
I've got to say,
go on.
I've got to say, like the train sequence, I do like that. Or I just like I just like seeing Magneto fucking crush people, like crush the aliens to death. Like, just the guy running at him like, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna make this, and like, the fuck you are.
Well, I'd always wanted to see the X-Men in these movies. Like, I always wanted to see them fight something that isn't just other mutants.
Yeah.
And even in Days of Future Past, we get them in the future fighting the Sentinels a little bit. But I always just wanted to see the X-Men have to deal with like aliens or supervillains, or, you know, just regular, like more like superhero shit, you know. And they do that in this movie. I think Cyclops, he's a pretty good Cyclops. They do flat out murder a fair few people and aliens. They do get a bit careless as well, fighting at the end. Kurt, fucking Nightcrawler, when he snaps and he starts fucking just stabbing people through the throat with his tail, I'm like, whoa.
He loses it, doesn't he?
And again, going back to Alan Cumming in X-Men 2, sometimes he's like the dark, brooding character, and then other times he's the comic relief. And I think they do a really good job of I think Cody Smith McPhee plays him in this new trilogy. I think he does a really good job of doing both of those, you know, for what little screen time he has. I think the action, that space shuttle rescue sequence at the beginning was pretty great. Like, I think X-Men, Dark Phoenix and New Mutants have something in common, where people only hate them because they had trouble with the releases, like, and they kind of they were released after like the Fox had already been bought by Disney. So I think a lot of people just like, oh well, these Marvel gonna reboot this anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I think both of those movies, top quality. New Mutants, right? So McManus, I mean, it's obvious now, but I was going to ask, right? Because I forgot when we were watching all of these, I forgot one of the X-Men movies. Because I thought there was 12 and then it turned out there were 13. I was going to ask you, which one did I forget? Obviously, I forgot about New Mutants, right? And I agree. I think it's fucking great. I think it's like watching it's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with superpowers.
Yes.
It's got like it's got Shawshank Redemption vibes to it. It's got Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. I think if this movie didn't have such a troubled like release thing and it just came out like normally, I'm watching this, I'm like, they were finally getting on their shit. It pays off the fucking Essex course tease from one of the other movies, like the continuity. They're referencing the X-Men as heroes. You graduate, you can go and join the fucking X-Men. Like, all the continuity, I thought everything was finally coming together, and then they got bought by fucking Disney anyway. But I was like, this is fucking peak. Fucking New Mutants, man. Again, all the characters you've got, like everyone's like represents like a different thing. Like Maisie Williams, you've got all like this like religious kind of, you know, torment and all that kind of stuff. Ileana, played by Anna Taylor-Joy, she's got like a whole schizophrenic thing. Cannonball's got this like, it's like a self-harm metaphor. You know, everyone's got like a different like mental health or like a sexuality, you know, with Sunspot and Wolfsbane are kind of got like, you know, issues with like their sexuality related to their powers and their guilt and their religion and all this kind of stuff. Like, it just play, and it's like it's a 90-minute movie. This movie does everything that people were saying the MCU should be doing now. People are like, oh, the movies are too long, they're not personal and character driven enough. There's too many special effects. You know, it's always just blazers at the end. Like, and this movie does all of that. It's fucking lean.
Yeah,
You know, it's all characters and emotion for most of it. Like,
the movie really does this thing. You're going like, holy shit!
It slaps. It
Yeah.
slaps so hard if people still say that. If anyone's watching this and you haven't seen New Mutants and you just wrote it off as like, I don't need to see that, it is quality. It is
It's like,
really fucking emotional, really effective. When the action does hit, it's pretty great. I love when we first meet Cannonball and he's all like beat up and he's in a sling. It's like, this is a dude who's fucking been flying into walls for his fucking whole life. Like the
if you're a fan
cast
of
is
horror
great.
movies, like
Yeah,
with mutants, basically, there's like a horror movie with mutants and like with like oh fucking what's it? Oh, no, I've lost it. But yeah,
it's all right.
if you
Cast the mutants.
if you into like the horror franchises, this is what it is. It's just mutants in a horror movie, like
with teen drama and like angst, and you know, there's a really like some really effective like love stories like mixed in there. You know, you start off like everyone's got an arc. You start off hating Anya Taylor-Joy's character. She's pretty racist and horrible, to be honest. They're not scared to make her like, everyone is like fucking raw and real and like, you know, warts and all kind of situation. Like, and they, you know, you do come round on all of them. I love it when you meet Roberto's Sunspot and you're like, and he's like, they're like, oh, he's from a rich family or whatever, but he's doing the dishes and stuff. And at first I was watching it, I was like, oh, there's no way a spoiled rich kid would be doing like the laundry and the dishes. But then when you find out about like what his history is, you're like, oh, this is a man who feels guilty about a thing that he did because he couldn't control his powers. So he's like doing, you know, you just, again, it's all this contextual stuff that you can kind of read between the lines of like, oh, okay, so he's doing all this stuff that a rich spoiled frat kid that he is wouldn't normally be doing, because again, he's got these demons that he's trying to kind of like you know, rectify in his mind, and everyone's got those layers going on. The villain, you know, it's not, you know, you've kind of got two villains, kind of. You've got like the nasty, you know, matron scientist lady who kind of, you know, obviously is not going to be a nice character in a movie like this. And then you've got like everyone's having these nightmares and these visions, and all their fears and stuff are kind of manifesting, and there's a little bit of a mystery. It takes the characters a little bit too long to figure out what's going on. It's pretty, if you was living in that fucking hospital and you're the fucking scientist lady, it should have been pretty obvious from the first night what was going on with Danielle's powers and how everything all kind of tied in. It's like, okay, I'm keeping this one vague just because in case anyone does watch this and wants to go and watch the movie, I think it's a really good time.
Without saying it, I was just like, you know what happens to the nurse by like when it eventually does happen. Yeah, get it, bitch.
Yeah, like I say, you know, like you know, if there's like a nurse in a mental hospital kind of situation, they're always going to be like not a nice character. But I think the way they handled the turn of her character wasn't just like eye-rollingly lame, you know what I mean? Like, it genuinely felt like, you know, she did feel like a three-dimensional character, and you know, it worked, and it didn't just unfold in the usual way that you would expect like a reveal like that to kind of happen. So pretty good stuff all in all. Now, how do you want to rank these, man? Do you want to go one each at a time?
Yeah, sure.
Is that how you want to do? So
Yeah.
starting at 13 and working our way up to number 1.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Cool. My 13, X-Men Last Stand.
Okay, that's fair. I think, like I said earlier, I think there's a few cool scenes in there that really not save it, but they,
Yeah,
it's a
they are
bad
cool
movie.
things.
It is a bad movie, but there's 2 or 3 good moments in it. So my number 13 is, which I think is just nonsensical, no fun, no plot, we're just going by the numbers to do, because everyone wants to see Apocalypse, so that's what we're gonna do. So
Okay.
I put 13. I got Apocalypse.
Okay.
12 for you.
12 for me is X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Ding, ding, ding. 12 for me is X-Men Origins Wolverine. Again, for all the reasons we said about, it's just cartoonish and stupid. What have you got at 11? We're going
I've
to
got to
get
say,
very different here.
yeah, 11 is New Mutants.
Oh, wow. Damn. I've just forgot to mention, by the way, we haven't talked about Deadpool. We'll probably cover those maybe closer to the release of Deadpool, and I have got them on my ranking, as I'm sure you have as well. It
Yeah.
almost feels unfair to compare them because they're so different, because it's such more of a comedy thing.
Yeah,
But
I'll put question marks on both of us at the side
but
of
I
my.
have got them in the ranking, so we're going to rank them in here. But I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, before we get to those, my 11 is the Wolverine. Like I say, it starts out so good, and just how drastically bad it gets from the second half just really ruined it so much for me that I'm just like, this, it ruins the whole movie how bad it ends for me. So yeah, that's my number 11. What, now we're getting into 10.
X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Wow. Okay. I've got the other Phoenix. I've got X-Men 3 here at number 10.
Okay.
And Dark Phoenix is later on in my list. Not by much, but we'll get there. Number 9, McManus.
X-Men the Wolverine.
Okay. This is where we're going to start to get some surprises now, because in my number 9, I've got Deadpool 2.
Oh.
Yeah, I put Deadpool 2 quite far down. I think comedy sequels are always hard because you always want to recapture the same jokes from the first one.
I laughed so
Same,
fucking hard though.
It is funny and it is good, and like Juggernaut is cool, and Cable was okay. Cable didn't quite reach the levels that I thought they could have done. I thought Cable, I thought he was okay. He could have been better.
Cable definitely, it could have been better, but I'm glad what we got, because it could have been.
Yeah, he was still fine. Yeah, he was good. And then the whole plot of the movie is my girlfriend dies at the beginning, and then the whole movie happens, and then he just saves you at the end, and it's got no connection in between. Whereas the first movie, it's the plot and the jokes kind of run all the way through, and that one just felt a little bit disjointed for me. But number 8, McManus.
X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh wow, that's higher than it should be. That's fine. My number 8 is Dark Phoenix, and I almost, people will rip me for this, I almost put it above. In fact, I'll go straight into my number 7, because I almost put this in the other order, but my number 7 is Logan. I very nearly put Dark Phoenix above Logan. Again, I think Logan is cool, but I think it's not as deep or as edgy as it kind of pretends to be. So yeah, 7 is Logan. What's your 7?
X-Men First Class.
Oh wow, okay, that's fair. I mean, I think X-Men First Class Over was one of the better movies, but I think having it sort of in the middle, when you put in the Wolverine movies and the Deadpool movies, I think having First Class sort of end up around there is fair. I've got First Class as my number 6, so it's in the top half. Like I say, I think it's pretty good. There's just like how X-Men 3 has like 2 or 3 good moments that kind of make it okay. I think this has like 2 or 3 bad moments that kind of just bring it down a little bit. So now we're getting into the top 5 at Manos. What's your number 5?
X-Men.
No subtitle. That's fair. Wow, that's pretty low down. Pretty low down. My number 5 is New Mutants. Again, so I've got New Mutants above Logan and above First Class. I think for all the reasons
do believe. I think I did do New Mutants a bit dirty here.
It's set in stone. You're not allowed to change your mind now. This is carved into the stone of fucking history. New Mutants number 5. Did you say you're number 5? You said X-Men, right? It's number 5. Okay, number 4. Again, this very nearly. Was tempted to swap this with New Mutants, but my number 4 is Deadpool. Again, I think lots of heart, lots of comedy. The action is great. The way they structured the story and jumped back and forward, I think they did a really good job. It's probably about as good as you could hope for a Deadpool movie, really. So yeah, I think number 4 is fair game.
My number 4 is X-Men 2.
X-Men 2. Fuck. Okay, we're getting into the fucking nitty gritty now. So my number 3, and this was tough. These top 3 was tough, man. My number 3 is Days of Future Past. If you're paying attention, you'll be able to figure out what I've got above this in my number 1 and 2. And I would say that Days of Future Past is probably the best X-Men movie, but I think it doesn't work if you don't have the other ones to kind of build up, like the fact that you've got like the nostalgia for the original cast and then you bring in the new cast. And I would say it's a better movie than the other 2, but again, it relies on the other stuff to kind of make it better. So yeah, Days of Future Past, it got knocked down to number 3 because of that.
My number 3 is Logan.
Logan. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, again, it's pretty good. I'm ragging on it a little bit tonight. But I think it's overrated, but it's a really good movie. Even just like not even just X-Men movie, but as a movie, it's pretty good. It's just an action movie, and it's got character study in there. Like I say, I'm being harsh on it, but I just had to get this stuff off my chest.
I remember when I came out of the cinema, and I literally went, "I have no need. Like, I don't need to watch that again." Like, not like having like shit movie like. That movie, walking home at a slow pace after it, was like, that fucking movie broke me.
A satisfying movie, and it's like it's got the emotional punches in the right places, and it does a good job with them. So I think that's fair. Right, what are we at now? Number 2.
Yep, number 2.
So my number 2. Oh, Logan was your number 2, was it?
No, that was my number 3.
Okay, so my number 2 then is X-Men, the first X-Men. Again, plays like a thriller more than a superhero movie. You know, really good job of introducing all the characters, establishing a dynamic. You know, really good themes, and again, it built this whole universe. And again, there's a lot of bad ones in this whole universe, but the fact that it went for 25 years, you know, off of the back of this first movie. You know, I think it's pretty, and you know, and it can not only did this franchise carry through, but it carried through other franchises that started much later and kind of, you know, like the MCU and stuff, kind of had a bit of an advantage because they'd already had these other X-Men movies, you know, and these, because of how good that first X-Men movie was, these ones managed to carry on before the MCU and run alongside it, you know, and be just as successful, you know. So yeah, can't go wrong with X-Men unless there's one more above it, which there will be. But what's your number 2?
Deadpool 2.
Oh wow, you got Deadpool 2 over Deadpool 1.
Mm.
Where did you have Deadpool 1? That was like number 6 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, number 1.
Oh, you have.
I've got
Oh,
Deadpool as
okay. I've
number
ruined
1.
it. I've ruined it. Oh, fucking hell. I weren't keeping track. I thought you had Deadpool earlier on.
No.
Okay. So your number 2 is Deadpool 2, and then your number 1 is Deadpool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my number 1 is X-Men 2. I think, it builds on everything from the first one, introduces new characters, it juggles the stories and the characters and the pacing, the action, like everything is just all perfectly fucking spread throughout the whole movie. It doesn't lose any of like the themes or the political social commentary. Like everything is dialed up from the first one without losing anything that made the first one.
Yeah.
And I think X-Men 2, like if you watch a lot of more like modern or recent like movies, a lot of like the MCU stuff, you can kind of see like they're all the X-Men 2 influence. Like you can see it, like that is the gold standard. Like even something like Captain America Civil War is like they wouldn't. X-Men 2 walked so that later movies could run. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the influence is just still there, and top quality stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got
for number 1, it's Deadpool. It's just because like I was massive like before the movie came out, or still am like massive fan. Like I would go like round the corner shop, and literally the only comics they would have out at the time around the 2015 were only Deadpool comics. You would like just someone would come in, put Deadpool comics there, and that was only the genre they had. So I was like, fuck yes, I'm getting my Deadpool comics. And it got announced that Ryan Reynolds is doing the Deadpool movie. And like, motherfucker! Now everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon, which they fucking did.
They did.
Righteously so, because he did a fucking job at it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good payoff, I think, especially after like how dirty they did the character in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And you had that long build up, that long like period where you didn't think it was going to happen, and then when they announced it, you're like, yeah, but can they really make it work? Like after all this fucking time and build up, and it's R-rated, and he's breaking the fourth wall. It's too like, is it too weird, or to be successful? And they put I mean, he's not as weird in the movie as he is in the comics. In the comics, he's much more of like, a horrible, like despicable loser. Like he's definitely, he's not pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but compared, they definitely tightened him up a little bit for the movies, but they did a great job of doing it. And I'm glad that it did well. Deadpool was always one of my favorite characters from reading comics, especially like not as a kid, but like through like the mid to late 2000s. I was huge on Deadpool, and I think, like I said earlier, I think it's about as good as you could probably hope for a Deadpool movie to be done. Really,
I like how like I just like the things that he would do. He would just fuck off halfway between like you're watching, like you're reading something. He'll disappear. He'll come back with something, or like a crate full of fireworks. He'll get asked like, "What's with the fucking crate full of fireworks?" Like,
and then it pays up later. Yeah, I know exactly what story you're talking about. I can't remember what it is, but I've read that. I've seen the Daniel Way run.
But it's him versus Dr. Bong. It's just like,
he's in the back of the car with a Moon Knight and Black Widow, and he brings the fireworks. They're like, "What's with the fireworks?" And then it all ties up. And again, they did the way they structured the movie, like kind of did like emulate a bit of that, where like, like the stuff with the bullets and the counting the bullets, and then and then leaving the guns behind, and then it all kind of works out in the end with the swords, and like, or he'll finish everything, everyone's dead apart from one dude, but then the shine will fall down on the dude or whatever. Like, they did a really good job of like sort of doing a really good general like capsule like of like the general Deadpool character
Yeah.
and the vibe. Again, I would like more weird shit, but I think we're gonna get that in Deadpool and Wolverine.
I so want the fucking head voice. I really fucking want that. Like, even if you use it for like 10, 15
I would
minutes,
love that, yeah.
like, fuck him up
Especially in
so bad. Like, hey, do you know you got a voice in your head now? It's like, what?
Yeah, it's great. Anyone who hasn't read any Deadpool comics, yeah, they he has a voice in his head, like a lot of characters do, but he's one kind of talks to him more like he goes back and forth with the thought bubbles, and then they eventually they got to a point where they introduced two different characters in the thought bubbles. So he would have yellow thought bubbles, and then he would have white thought bubbles, and they were like two different voices that he would argue with both of them, and they would argue with each other, and they would all have different pieces of information for the story, and they would all know different things or do different things. And yeah, I would love it if they could find a way to get that into the movie.
There's one of the comics I've got that Deadpool goes to a convenience store, and he's like, okay, this looks a bit shady, but anyway, I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go get my fucking chimichangas. And the clerk store does something. Deadpool's like, okay, you've got 2 minutes to tell me that you're a fucking terrorist, and before my rap is done,
Gets congealed.
If that gets congealed, you're fucked. And he's like, look,
and then the other voice, but like the thought bubble, one of them will be like, yeah, I hate it when it gets congealed. And then the other one's like, oh, you let it get congealed. It's like, oh, he's going to hate that. And
And it turns out that
I've got that whole run. I'm selling that whole run, by the way. I've got that whole run. Cool. I might sell it at some point. I only recently bought the final part of it because the volume 11 of that run was pretty hard to come by, and then a few months ago I got it on a good deal in hardcover. Yeah, I've got it literally, it's sitting in a pile over there. But anyway, 2.5 hours, in 25 years, 13 movies of X-rated glory, and not that kind of X-rated, but the good kind of X-rated, comic kind. Who needs women and boobs when you've got comics, everybody, and X-Men and mutants and teenage angst and problems? I ain't got any time for your problems. I got my own problems, and it's called inequality. I say this as a white man, but you know, I struggle with different things. It's fine, like my fucking ever-growing comic collection. But anyone disagrees with us, fuck off. No, don't. Drop a comment drop a comment. What's your favorite X-Men movie? What's your least favorite X-Men movie? Who's your favorite X-Men? What power would you have? I would teleport any day of the week, although I do worry if my clothes would go with me, because I don't think it makes sense that they do. You would have to hold on to them, and you could only take with you what you can hold. You know what I mean? Like, so you've got two hands, so you could like, do I hold my trousers and my shirt, but then I'm going to have no shoes when I get to the other place?
I think that would help, because like, your clothes aren't part of you, so you'd bamf out of your clothes.
That's what I'm saying.
Every time you'd have to fucking, yeah.
Because he can hold people and take them with him. So you'd have to hold your shirt and then your trousers, but then your underwear would stay unless you can grab them as well, or your shoes or your socks. You would have to choose.
Yeah. You can grab the other person, and their clothes would stay on if you grab them, but it's you, so you're the one who bamps out of your clothes every fucking time, and you're always butt naked, like, and it always turns up like, why are you fucking naked? Like,
every time you did it, you would have to go back and forwards. You'd have to teleport, then go back to grab your shoes, then go back, then come back to get your pants, and then go back. It would be a whole thing. I swear we could do a whole episode on like powers and how it would really
unnecessary
work.
powers, unnecessary powers.
There's so much stuff there. Like I said, with the Mystique thing and the flesh and the
Yeah.
we could honestly, that could be a whole episode. But anyway, favorite X-Men, least favorite X-Men movie. What power would you have, and would you take your pants or would you take your shoes? So comment below, click like, click subscribe, deep breath. See everyone next week. Next week, I think George is coming back. You're going to have all three of us, baby. And I think we're going to be talking about reboots.
Just a quick shout out. Sam Sheriff commented. So, hi, Sam.
Fucking yes, Sam. Love that you're here. And if you've been here for the whole 2.5 hours, then
I think he's been
God
popping in
bless you, my wayward son. Popping in's fine. And then, you know, go and watch New Mutants. Go and read some Deadpool comics. Go and watch our other videos. Go and follow Mechromorph UK on Instagram and all the platforms there. Check George's band out. Give them a like. Give them a listen. Give them a thumbs up. Give them a chance. Please, just one chance. And we will see everyone next week. I'm Dean. He's not. Bye.
What he said. See you later.